Welcome into Sports Time. Bryant and Brett with you live and local in our Family Leisure Studios. Landon Schmidt producing. We're Sports Time. We're with you for the next 3 hours. A lot to get to over these 3 hours. The Grizzlies, they were in action last night, back in action tonight against the Golden State Warriors. A lot of college basketball news to get to. Got to talk some Major League Baseball, even some NFL. So a lot to get to over these next 3 hours. But Brett, how are you this afternoon?
Brian, I'm doing great. No fooling. It's April 1.
It's April 1st. And yeah, you got to be...
You've been the subject of any gags today?
I have not. You got to be careful, though, on social media. I mean, I'm having to... Some of these, especially, transfer portal news, different things like that.
Tiger had a little fun on it.
Tiger had some fun this morning. Nobody believed that. But hey, at least being on the fun. You got to double check everything on April 1st.
Got to triple check it on Twitter.
That's true. Oh yes, you're always having to double check on Twitter. On April 1st, you have to quadruple check on Twitter. But no, I have not. Nobody's gotten me. I have not gotten anybody on April 1st. But it is the day of tomfoolery.
I thought somebody out there may. The announcement of filling the coach, he's retired.
Yeah.
Lane Kiffin, like Penny Hardaway, John Calipari's going to take the A&M job.
Yeah. The only
now is Buzz Williams is it for real?
Yeah, I think that one's for real. The way it's being reported, I think that one's for real. The one today though that I did have to stop and double triple check and see, is this real or is this April Fool's? Michi Johnson, the guard who was at Ohio State, he entered the transfer portal and committed to South Carolina, which is hilarious because he started his career at Ohio State in the 2020-21 season. After 2 seasons, transferred to South Carolina, spent 2 seasons there, then transferred back to Ohio State, spent a year there, and now is transferring back to South Carolina. So
I don't know if you can get used to that and all those moves, but like Musa say, maybe it wasn't so bad then.
No, yeah, and so that was one where I had to double, triple check and say, is this the wildest story of the transfer portal? Is this the biggest April Fool's prank? It looks very true. So that is a new one, transferring 4 times, but only between 2 schools. That's a different one.
The joke's gonna be on the Grizzlies if they don't win tonight.
Yeah, and it's a big one. Last night, we talked about it yesterday. A game that certainly a win helps. You love to win. But at the end of the day, the Lakers game and tonight's game were more important because of what it would mean for Western Conference standings. But last night was not fun. There were times where the Grizzlies looked good. At halftime, they're shooting 50%. Even in the second half, there were a couple times they went on runs. The only problem was there were a couple times the Celtics went on big runs of their own.
Didn't feel right in the building.
It didn't. And then
even up in the good spurts.
Yeah, and at the end, those Celtic chants were
Tell you
were
one
wild
thing
to hear.
I did like.
What's that?
640 tip. Now it turned me into Dale Earnhardt getting to the building.
Sure.
I don't know if I need to. I don't know if I need to do that too often. But 645 would really work for me. I'd love that.
Yeah, no.
But we still had some late arrivals. I think some people got confused on start time.
I'm sure they did. We're so used to that 7 o'clock tip tonight, 7 o'clock tip against the Warriors. We've gotten so used to that and earlier, and it kind of threw me off last night. I mean, that game, I get home last night and the game's starting, and then, game's over. I'm going, all right, well, and I'm looking
I got a lot of the Cardinal game driving home.
It was different. It kind of messed me up a little bit. And then on top of that, Pete Pranica doing the game last night on TNT, that also had me a little messed up because I know I'm watching TNT, but I'm hearing Pete.
Good for Pete.
He was great last night on TNT. So now it wasn't fun, but
no, it wasn't. And those you mentioned those cheers, and they were letting it rip.
Yeah, I mean they were.
There were a lot of Celtics fans there.
It was loud.
A lot of jerseys.
Yeah, and it was just another one of those games where defensively they struggled to slow Boston down. It was a lot of 3-point shooting and 3-point making by the Boston Celtics that really gave them that edge last night.
I'm convinced the Grizzlies don't know what they're doing on defense, and the effort's poor. That's a really bad combination.
Yeah, man. And, I think so many people, I tried to bring it up as, trying to just grasp straws of why make this move right now. Well, maybe you make that move and you get your players, they have a spark. Sometimes the opposite happens. When you're struggling and, effort had already been a question, and then you make a move like that, sometimes it can only, it gets worse. And so, you might be seeing a little bit of that now that this move's been made.
In these professional locker rooms, across sports, it's not just the Grizzlies, it's not just the NBA. I guess now, even in college, they can get that coach fired.
No, yeah. No, they absolutely can. They absolutely can. And, I think we've talked about it. A little bit has been, put out there over the weekend with some reporting. But I do think there's still a lot of questions, a lot of behind the scenes of, what happened that led them to make this decision with only 9 games left to let go of Taylor Jenkins. Last night on TNT, Taylor Rooks reported very strongly that Ja Morant had no input on the move to fire Taylor Jenkins. That was very early in the game, maybe even before the game started.
They don't want him saddled.
No.
I'm going to trust that's the case.
Sure, I am too. But
they don't want him being. I got a coach fired.
Yeah, and it was
the only coach he's known.
Mm-hmm. I think it was the first.
Is that right, or was he?
No, he was. It was.
Yeah, that's right.
First year was Taylor Jenkins' first year, and it was the first time out. Coming back from the first time out, they had not really mentioned it. Kind of before the game started, it was kind of Tomas Isolo, interim head coach, and then coming back, Taylor Rooks sideline kind of had the whole reporting of it, and then said very strongly, Ja Morant did not have any input.
And she stood out. It looked like the Memphis Hustle, Memphis Sounds red dress she had on.
She did. And so, it was good to have the game on TNT, but not a fun result. And now tonight against Golden State, we'll see how it plays out. I mean, you're right in front of Golden State, and so tonight a very important game. In terms of standings. And, we talked about how important these 3 games were. And so right now, a half game ahead of Golden State. You lose tonight, you wake up tomorrow morning and you're in the 6 and not
going the wrong way.
Behind you, Timberwolves and Clippers, both only a game behind you right now. So in the wrong direction for sure. But we'll definitely talk more about the Grizzlies throughout the show. Some other things I wanted to get to in this first segment. You mentioned Buzz Williams taking the Maryland job. It felt like it right when Kevin Willard announced that he was going to Villanova, even before that, when everyone all but knew he was going to Villanova. Buzz was the biggest name out there of, get ready. He wants this Maryland job. But now, Texas A&M an opening, and you got to imagine they're going to want to take a big swing and try to get a high-level coach to come in and take over that program.
A&M's, they're close to Arizona State and one or two others. Minnesota, I mentioned last week. Mm-hmm. They've tried it all.
Yeah. They've
tried everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
it's kind of blah at all 3 places with everything.
It's a lot of excitement. It feels like every year you kind of come in and go, all right, look out for them, and then nothing really pans out.
And the old hindrances to the A&M job will forever in the Southwest Conference. The most dreadful arena. Mm-hmm. It was an old National Guard armory.
Oh, wow.
G. Raleigh White.
Holy cow.
Just so bad.
Mm-hmm.
High school clownish bad. They got a great arena right there in that complex. It all meshes so well with, Kyle Field, the centerpiece, and the baseball park and the indoor the indoor for football and basketball right there. Money. They've had money in it. They've had a little success. A&M was here last year, blew that wild overtime game. I thought they should have won that and got into a 16 last year. He didn't. So with him out, he was 3rd in seniority. It's now Bruce Pearl 1, Rick Barnes 2, Nate Oates 3, Michael White at Georgia 4, and really the whole 2022 class. They were all hired in a span of about 2 or 3 days. So I might not be exactly right on the hour and the day that they were hired. So Michael White, Todd Golden, Chris Jans, Dennis Gates, Mac McMahon, Lamont Paris, all hired that year.
Wow.
A couple of those need a good year next year.
Yeah, they definitely do.
Then Chris Beard 2 years ago, Mark Byington, then the 24 class, Byington, John Calipari, Mark Pope. I had Porter Mosier with them joining the league, and now Sean Miller at Texas.
Wow, that is some of those coaches that are kind of high up there, a little surprising.
Nate Oates third.
That's hard to believe. That blew me away when you said that. But we'll see what Texas A&M decides to do. You mentioned, I mean, they've got the money, and it feels like they'll want to try to go out there and make a big swing at somebody. And
it will be an established head coach, won't it?
I think it's got to be. I was reading some stuff earlier that had possible names and had kind of the big time head coaches.
I haven't seen names thrown around. Give me some.
This was the only one I've seen. So again, grain of salt. It's still very early. Obviously the big ones, you got to give them a call and just see what they say. Bryce Drew, I don't think.
You do?
I think you.
He's tried the SEC once.
Well, that's true. That's true. But Chris Beard on here, that would be the big name. But I don't. It'd certainly be funny if he went to Texas A&M, because then
he's Texas through and through.
He sure is, and that's why I don't see it happening. But if he did take it, he'd really be doing the rounds of those Texas schools. I mean, Texas Tech, Texas A&M. He'd have them all there.
He'd have about everything the whole Southwest Conference covered, wouldn't he?
Yeah, he sure would.
Rumored for Arkansas.
Yeah. Chris Beard is the big name on there. There was another. No, it was Chris Beard was the biggest name. Bryce Drew, I guess that's a name.
Won't say shocked, but would be surprised if he did that.
Yeah. Steve Forbes. I don't know if that's really a super.
I'd be calling Hodgson at South Florida and seeing if he signed anything yet.
Yeah. See if that ink's dry yet. Chris Jans. I don't know if he would leave.
Jans' name pops up a lot, and he does. He never really goes anywhere. He stays. And
Andy Kennedy.
That feels yesterday, not tomorrow.
It does. Steve Lutz. Maybe another one yesterday, not today. Bucky McMillan would certainly be a kind of young and rising.
I think they want more press conference than that.
I do too. Porter Moser, maybe kind of a reset with him in Oklahoma. Maybe that's one where starting new. He's a name that has popped up at a couple of openings that have now been filled. But those are kind of the early names, at least in this story. That are kind of out there. I'm sure we'll
have to move fast because of portal.
Here's one. Here's CBS Sports doing coaching Chris Beard, number 1 on theirs. Brad Underwood at Illinois. Porter Mosier again there. Chris Jans also on here. Grant McCasland, a name on here. So Fred Hoiberg at Nebraska is the last name on here. Maybe, I don't know, but we'll see. They got to move fast. I mean, it's
and a football guy's AD, right. Trev Alpers.
Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with that job, and see if they can go and get a big name. Last thing I wanted to bring up before we get to top and not top story of the day. This was announced earlier today. Memphis Athletics announced season ticketing for next year, mainly basketball, but it did announce that all sports, there will be a sales tax added to tickets starting next season on both tickets and parking for all sports. This is something the athletic department has historically covered, but obviously now with the changes with the revenue sharing, that's going to be something that is going to be put in there with the ticket buying.
They just can't anymore.
No, you just
can't.
You
have to pass it along.
You do, and you got to find ways to have that money and keep money to do revenue sharing, and also they will be reducing capacity for FedEx Forum by 3,649 starting next season. The plan is to curtain off seats in the north and south ends of the terrace level to, quote, right-size the atmosphere for home games. They also will...
And it's no slight. It's just a recognition of this is where we are for now. And when the demand hits, they can pull the curtain back.
And that's the good thing about it is you can always not drop the curtains down. And there's very few teams in college basketball that have 18,000 seat gyms. It just
so few.
It doesn't happen. I think I saw a number earlier today. Maybe 7 or 8 other schools play in either 18,000.
I bet most of those ADs wish they didn't have that many seats.
Oh, absolutely. And so with that,
even at Kentucky, I bet you they wish we could trim this thing down 1,500, 2,000.
Just a little bit, yeah. Just
because it increases the demand.
It absolutely does. And so with that, with the restructuring of seats. They're going to restructure the ticket pricing on the club and plaza levels, calling it, quote, a more affordable experience. So really feels like a win-win here for everybody.
And understandable.
Yeah, very understandable.
Now, to the person out there, yeah, you're not paying for that parking. You're not paying that sales tax. I understand that. And I know we're all, everywhere now gets us coming and going. I understand that. But you also have to understand that they can't eat anything anymore.
They can't, no. Because, I mean, now, you've got to pay those athletes. And so with all this money you had to cover this sales tax, you got to use that now for these players. And so, there are other – I was reading a story.
It makes winning that much more paramount.
It does. And I don't want to misquote. I don't remember if I read this in the Commercial Appeal or the Daily Memphian earlier today. But, there are some schools that are adding additional fees to tickets. It's not just the sales tax. It is, blatantly additional revenue sharing fees to the tickets. Memphis is trying to avoid doing that, adding any sort of additional prices to that, and just adding that sales tax on there. So we'll see that starting obviously with football in the fall, and it will be in every sport. So definitely something to keep an eye on for Tiger Athletics. But we've got a busy show today, a lot to get to, very guest heavy this afternoon. So let me set up today's show before we get to top and not top story of the day. 3:30, Brian Geltzeiler from SiriusXM NBA Radio will join us to talk the NBA. We'll get his thoughts on the Grizzlies, the direction they're heading, the decision they made last Friday, and all the other big news around the NBA. Love having Brian Geltzeiler on when we can get him, just all over the NBA. So we'll do that in our next segment. 3:45, we'll talk baseball. Fun day yesterday of Major League Baseball. It's really been a fun start to the season. So we'll talk some Major League Baseball, some big stories coming out of the MLB.
Dodgers really may go 162-0.
They really could. I was a little disappointed that the Cardinals snapped that thought of going
161-1 is not bad.
It's not bad. But yes, the Dodgers really could go 162-0. So we'll talk Major League Baseball. 3:45. Big news. Jurickson Profar suspended for 80 games yesterday. That came out yesterday evening. We'll talk about that at 3:45. 4 o'clock. Brent Beard from First Coast News down in Jacksonville. He'll join us. We'll talk college basketball and college football with him. Obviously, still SEC, ACC schools standing in March Madness. Obviously, the news about Buzz Williams, but also college football news we got to get to, including, I want to get his thoughts, the news that came out last night, Coastal Carolina, free concessions. Come one, come all, whatever you want.
Packed antacids.
I mean, hey, you got to be ready for that. Both sides have to be ready for that.
Prilosec should be the corporate sponsor at Coastal.
Yes, I mean, there are going to be some people that are really gonna challenge if that really is free concessions.
You could hurt yourself.
You could.
And you can.
You could hurt yourself, and Coastal could hurt themselves by having free concessions. So that will be a fun storyline to pay attention to this football season. We'll talk to Brent at 4 o'clock. 4:30, Mark Wise from ESPN will join us to talk college basketball and the Final Four. 4:45, we get to big number of the day. 5 o'clock, Bo Marchant will join us to talk the NFL. A lot of draft talk, still free agency talk, and NFL owners, they voted today on various things. So we'll get to all of that with Bo Marchant at 5 o'clock. 5:30, we'll get to what's trending. And at 5:45, wrap up today's show like we always do with Crunch Time. Let me remind you, we're in our Family Leisure Studios where family and fun come together, and it's pool time. They're already booking pool installs for 2025 at Family Leisure, so buy now and get on the list for your pool installation. 2024 pools starting at $19.99 installed. Liners starting at $299. All pool accessories up to 20% off, and 5 to 6 person hot tubs starting at $69.99. Swim spas and cold plunge tubs, they're available, and get $2,000 off at Family Leisure. And don't forget about the patio furniture. Patio furniture sets up to 50% off on select sets. And mention this ad and get free installation. So head out there right now. Family Leisure, 2120 Witten Road, just north of I-40.
Live and local from our Family Leisure Studios. We're Sports Time until 6 o'clock. He's Brian. I'm Brett. It's produced by Landon Schmidt. And we want you to be a part of it by texting or calling 901-360 901-360-8255. That's the Sissy's Log Cabin text and talk line. All our guests will join us on the Sissy's Log Cabin guest line at 901-360-8255. This hour brought to you every day by Lexus of Memphis at 2600 Ridgeway and online at lexusofmemphis.com. Great offers on all 2025 models and always special leasing options. Drive in luxury and confidence knowing that every new Lexus comes with complimentary first and second maintenance services. Call them at 901-334-9673, but stop by the only Lexus dealership in Memphis at 2600 Ridgeway and put yourself in the driver's seat of the all-new 2025 flagship LS500, and you'll be looking and you'll be driving in style. When you purchase a Lexus, you get top-of-the-line engineering and design, and they make for the safe luxury driving experience. Online at lexusofmemphis.com. Experience amazing at Lexus of Memphis.
Top story of the day.
Well, my top story of the day, it's got to be the Memphis Grizzlies. Last week, we talked a lot about this 3-game homestand. 3 games against 3 incredible NBA brands. The Los Angeles Lakers, the Boston Celtics, and the Golden State Warriors. Now, when we were talking about that, most of the time, we didn't know that it would be under an interim head coach, but that's where we're at right now. Certainly, 2 of those games were very important in terms of standings. The Los Angeles Lakers right in front of you in the standings. The Golden State Warriors right behind you in the standings. You wanted to at least try to win 1 or 2 of those games against those 2 teams that are around you. But obviously, a win over Boston, you'd definitely be happy with. Nobody wanted to go in and go, oh, this is a game we can lose, because right now you'll get wins any way you can take them. But now 0-2 on this homestand tonight against the Golden State Warriors. Right now, they're favored for tonight's game on the road, and this is a Grizzlies team that unless something comes out later tonight before the game starts, they are pretty much healthy. Right now, Golden State only half a game back. Minnesota and the Clippers, they're only a game back. So we're talking about if the Grizzlies lose tonight, some other things happen with, obviously the Warriors would get a win tonight. Timberwolves, Clippers over the next tonight or tomorrow, we could be talking about the Grizzlies being in the 8th seed. These are 2 teams, really 3 teams that are playing red hot. Golden State's been hot ever since the trade deadline. They're 7-3 in their last 10. Minnesota 7-3 in their last 10. The Clippers, a team that the Grizzlies have really struggled against this year, 8-2 in their last 10 games. Grizzlies, on the other hand, 3-7, now on a 3-game losing streak. We'll see what happens tonight. If you're the Grizzlies, gotta have a win tonight against the Warriors.
The last time the Grizzlies played Golden State at FedEx Forum was December 19th.
Wow.
Won by 51.
That's right. Yes, they did.
I would take by 1 tonight.
Absolutely.
I don't need the other 50.
Yeah, that was. I was at a wedding that night. Missed the entire thing. Looked down at my phone, saw the final score, and said, "Holy cow! 51. What did I just miss?"
Second largest margin of victory in team history.
I remember that very well.
My top story: full-on Grizz disaster unfolding before our very eyes. Penny firing coaches before the season started. What was. Well, that was a lot. It was one thing, but cleaning house on the eve of the playoffs is quite another. Boston made the Grizzlies like it last night, too. They rubbed collective noses in it, and then the chance late in the game of the Celtics fans there. And a lot of Grizzlies fans that made their way to the exits, and you can take over a building that way because a lot of people have gone home and conceded. And tonight, our old buddy Draymond Green here to make us more miserable.
Yeah, well, that's how it goes.
Well, he got the timing award, doesn't he?
He sure does. He knows when to come in and make his presence felt, and that certainly will happen tonight.
Not top story of the day.
Well, my not top story of the day, it is Tiger basketball, really Tiger athletics, with the news that came out earlier today that there will be the addition of the sales tax that the athletic department has covered for such a long time. Now with revenue sharing, it will be something that fans will pay when buying tickets and parking. I know, Brett mentioned this. We hate when there's those additional fees or the things that we're not used to when it comes especially to money. It feels like, everywhere you go, it's just more and more expensive. And now obviously tickets will be more expensive. But I go back to what I read earlier. This is not the additional fees or anything. This is just a sales tax that now the Tigers, instead of covering that sales tax, will use that money that they've had to pay these players in terms of revenue sharing. So obviously, if they're covering that, more money to give to those players and have competitive rosters in this day and age where NIL and now revenue sharing are really running the college game. It's going to be different, but I think something that we will come to really understand, and it will just kind of be that extra thing in terms of ticket buying. The other thing, obviously, the capacity is going to go down 3,649. It'll go from 18,400 seats to 14,470 seats. But also with that, they'll make those tickets in the club and plaza level a more affordable experience, which will definitely be nice. And then the last thing, last night, right when we got off of the show, the news came out. Demarion Yates, Dink Yates, who got some minutes sporadically throughout the season, he has entered his name into the transfer portal. So now 4 Tigers with eligibility remaining already in the transfer portal. Dink Yates, PJ Carter, Jared Harris, and Baraka Okoje. We know the players that are out of eligibility. That only leaves PJ Haggerty, Dante Harris, and Boona Kibe, who redshirted this season, as the 3 players that have not announced their intentions of entering the transfer portal. But we talked about this a little bit yesterday. Tigers on a ton of guys, really casting a wide net. Have a couple of guys that have already visited, have a couple players that are setting up visits later this week and into next week. So it will be another very busy offseason for Tiger basketball.
My not top story, Todd Golden will be the 7th Final Four head coach currently in the SEC. That's now out of 15. Buzz Williams was not. Bruce Pearl at Auburn. He did it with Auburn in 2019. Nate Oates with Bama, he did it last year. Rick Barnes at UT, he did it with UT in 03. He did it at Texas. Chris Beard at Ole Miss, he did it with Texas Tech in 2019. And Porter Moser did it in 2018 at Loyola, now at OU, and we know John Calipari at UMass, Memphis, and at Kentucky. 7 of the current 15 head coaches in the SEC now with Final Four chops.
Wow,
that puts the pressure on Trev Alberts.
Sure does. It sure does. That's good stuff, and it kind of shows you why this conference has been so good this year.
No way to repeat what they did this year, though.
No,
you're never threading that 14-team needle.
No, it just seems impossible that any conference will be able to do what the SEC did this year. Well, that'll do it for top and not top story of the day. Let's go ahead and get to a break, and when we return, we're talking NBA with Brian Geltzeiler.
Is really one of the best times of year for sports and visiting Bell Tavern, Memphis' perfect downtown neighborhood bar. The Bell Tavern is a sports bar, but with the beginning of baseball, the stretch run for the Grizzlies, and everything else that's going on, there is simply no better place to be than Bell Tavern. One thing people say all the time is that they have made more friends at Bell Tavern than they have at any other bar, and that's because Bell Tavern is a grown-up bar where people treat one another with respect, and that's how you make friends. You go to a friendly place and find out what you have in common, like, say, Bell Tavern.
Join the University of Memphis Athletic Department as they host the inaugural Power of Girls in Sports Clinic, sponsored by FedEx. Held in the Lori Bolton Family Basketball Center, Saturday, April 12th, girls 3rd through 6th grade will join Tiger female student athletes and staff to learn life skills, build confidence, and develop a healthy lifestyle while participating in sports. Admission is free, and the deadline to sign up is Monday, April 7th. Availability limited to the first 200 girls. Sign up at gotigersgo.com/PGSC.
Since 1948, in the alley, the Rendezvous. I'm with John Burgess. John, what's going on in the Rendezvous? Brett, after 76 years, we've decided to expand our product line. Anyone who's tasted our ribs is familiar with our vinegar base. It's now available in the 32-ounce jar. It's so good to base or marinate all meats. I even put a little bit on turnip greens. Something we've been using at the restaurant or at our house has been the Greek seasoning. My father was a cook, but my mother was a chef. And she was the one that put Greek seasoning on everything from a Mediterranean diet to steak. My mom used it on soup, salad, veggies, fish, any meat. It's a great seasoning and a flavor enhancer. My brother Nick figured out salt and pepper is more than just McCormick's and Morton's. He's come up with the perfect blend we use to coat our shoulders and our brisket, and he used to make it for his friends as Christmas gifts, and they loved it. All these products are available at Rendezvous or online for shipping as gifts and in many grocery stores. And if they're not in your favorite grocery store, ask your grocer to stock it. A beloved family affair is still going strong since 1948. Rendezvous.
Sports 56 traffic.
Good afternoon. Still trying to clean up this accident over here with some injuries on 40 westbound, right at that 240 flyover. That's why traffic's been a little bit slow coming past Sycamore View Road on 40 coming westbound. As a matter of fact, they had it closed on that ramp just a few minutes ago on that 240 flyover. As you come down 40 westbound there at Sycamore View Road, just hang in there. Hopefully they'll get this back open. Hey, if your lawn needs a little bit of help, call Lawn Solutions right now at 867-5626. I'm Commander Chuck with your on-time traffic.
Back into Sports Time. Bryant and Brett with you live and local inside our Family Leisure studios. And we got to talk some NBA. Brian Geltzeiler from SiriusXM NBA Radio joins us now. Brian, thanks so much for joining us. A lot to get to, but let's start with the big news out of Memphis last week. Taylor Jenkins out as the Grizzlies head coach. What did you make of that news and that decision by the Grizzlies to cut ties with their head coach this late in the season?
Well, the timing was the odd portion of that. The fact that Taylor Jenkins was fired, to me, is not all that relevant. I mean, I don't say it's not relevant. It's not surprising because when you strip a guy of 5 assistant coaches this past offseason, you know that he's on notice. I mean, that's something that's going to be. The timing, 9 games left in the season, now 7 games because they've lost 2 in a row for Tumas Desalo. And the timing is odd. The timing reeks as desperate. The timing is maybe a vote of confidence for Asalo, but in the end, I would have seen it through with Jenkins for the rest of the season and made the decision after the season if he were going to part ways. I kind of feel like this was a little bit of a panic move, and I don't know that it's going to have the effect the Grizzlies want it to have and Zach Kleiman wants it to have. With all that said, I think it's an indication of where the Grizzlies thought they were going, which was nowhere. And that the reality is that this was kind of a Hail Mary move for this season with the thought that Asalo is going to be a guy that they feel like can be a long-term solution here. Now, again, I think you're going to have to make sure this aligns with what you want with what John Morant wants and what Desmond Bane wants and what Jaren Jackson, most of all, wants, and make sure that these guys want to play for Asalo. But I do think this is kind of a longer-term move buried in here with the thought that maybe, just maybe, we could come up with something for this year. But I do think that this is one of those signs that even, being out of the play-in tournament in the playoffs, or now when they may end up in the play-in tournament before all said and done, but being out of the play-in tournament where they are right now, to me is, even though they're there, I kind of think they're realizing that this is not going to be the Grizzlies' year.
But Brian, this is a sign of not healthy franchise. I said earlier, dysfunction. Agree or disagree?
Agree.
Yeah.
Totally agree. It's again because Brett. It's at worst desperation, and at best a Hail Mary. Like it's what it tells you when you have to fire a coach 9 games remaining in the season is you haven't had the right coach all season. But that's something. Listen, Brett, we talked last summer. I thought they should have fired Taylor Jenkins then. I feel like a lot of a lot of what's happened with John Moran off the floor, maybe it's not fair to say that, but I think there's been a disconnect in his relationship with Jenkins, and I know there's been some opposite things that have been reported, but I've heard that there's been some disconnect in that relationship. The other thing you have to remember is when you have a talent like John Moran, you have to have a system in place that's going to benefit his talent. When you see a stat like the Grizzlies have set the least amount of ball screens of any team in the NBA, and you have that kind of weapon on your team, that's something that you have to take a look at as well. Now, the ironic part and almost bizarre part about it is that this motion offense that they've been running is a Salos offense that he brought with him. Mm-hmm. And LaRoche, one of the assistants that was sent packing, was a very big proponent of this offense and really directed it for them. But it's also the offense that Morant's not happy with. Yeah. So, they've tried to get back to running more ball screens. The defense is weakened significantly, and I think that was laid at Jenkins' feet, maybe unfairly, because I do think that the defense weakening and Jaren Jackson being in and out of the lineup, that has been, those two things have a direct correlation as far as I'm concerned. But, I do think it does point back to a larger problem with the Grizzlies, which is, the Grizzlies, I feel like, didn't appreciate Dylan Brooks as much as they should have. Not only for what he brought defensively, but for the tone that he set as a veteran leader on this team. And yes, he made some mistakes in that Lakers series with LeBron and didn't comport himself all that well and handle himself all that well. And kind of, wore out his welcome to the point where a lot of other organizations thought he wasn't even going to get a contract. And maybe he was going to have to go play internationally. It was going to be that bad for him. I think they missed Brooks, and I think they thought Marcus Smart would be a viable substitute for that, and he was not, and then got traded at the deadline. They have not brought in the requisite veteran leaders that they've needed to try to stabilize this group, and I think that you've had a little bit of a culture erosion with the Grizzlies here that is going to have to be recaptured, not only through what you do with a new coaching staff, but also what you do with further player acquisition. I think they've had a lot of young guys for a long time. For lack of a better term, guys, I think it's time for an adult in the room.
I agree. I think it's time for adults in the front office. It goes to Wexler and to Kleiman, and if it's not Isolo, who right now has the interim tag, if he's not made permanent, then who would want to come in here and interview with Wexler and Kleiman and take this job if you just fired your winningest coach all time with 9 games to go on the way to the playoffs?
The answer is a lot of coaches, Brett.
Yeah.
Because you know what?
They never go unoccupied, do they?
There's 30 jobs in the league, and there's plenty of coaches that are out of work right now who would love to step in and coach this kind of talent. Any coach worth their weight in salt is going to look at the talent the Grizzlies have and say, I can win with this. And, the other thing is this. And yes, I've talked to plenty of NBA coaches that are out of jobs that wanted to take jobs, that at one point when they had a job, they had more demands now than when they don't have a job, and are willing to work with executives who are in complete control. And make no mistake, Zach Kleiman's in complete control of what's going on with the Grizzlies. But here's the thing. You'd much rather be with a GM who's in complete control, who has had a track record of selecting good players, who has been able to find guys like the Laravias and the Aldamas in the draft, who were unheralded guys that come in and play big roles, and draft a Jalen Wells and a Jay Huff. And you're going to have depth. You're going to have players. You can keep going. Gigi Jackson, Vince Williams. Kleiman's got a knack. And so when you look at that, yes, they fired their winningest coach, but again, he only won 27 games last year, right?
Yeah.
27 and 55 last year.
We had everybody but the bus driver hurt, though.
I understood. It's still only 27 games.
That's true.
And I get it. Bottom line business, and I get it. So my point is that, when you have that kind of season, we've seen coaches that have done a lot better not keep their jobs, right? Mm-hmm. We saw Dwayne Casey get fired up, Coach of the Year. We saw George Karl get fired up, Coach
Bud.
Bud, absolutely. How about Mike Brown? Mike Brown was doing a real good job in Sacramento, ended up out of a job. Like, really good coaches get fired. So no one's going to be scared off that Taylor Jenkins was fired. Mm-hmm. No one is going to be. And I do still think it's an attractive job for someone next year. I just think Kleiman's got to find somebody he's willing to work with. And listen, maybe Asala's the guy. Maybe he's not. And I think whatever Kleiman does, and where I would caution Zach Kleiman here in all this is be most concerned with a guy that can come in and get the most out of your star players. Worry about someone to come in and coach a top of the roster, as opposed to worrying about someone you can control. Yeah. And I think that's got to be what's most important. Because in the end, and you're hearing this, listen, you hear this more and more from star players that want out or star players that want to get rid of a coach. He didn't coach me hard enough. Was afraid to coach me. Guys, stars in this day and age want to be coached. If John Morant believes you can add value and make him a better player, he's going to listen to you. Okay? And more than that, if you're willing to go toe-to-toe with him, you may just command some respect from him. And I think that's the kind of guy that they're going to have to bring in. I think it's when, one of the mistakes I think organizations make when they go to hire a new coach is they don't necessarily want to contrast it with the guy that they just got rid of. When you want a new voice, that's going to mean a new type of voice as well. Listen, Taylor Jenkins was a guy that was, for the most part, a player's coach, and that kind of went with the flow of players, and players generally liked them. If you're looking for a different voice and somebody to take this team to another level, I'd get a little bit of a tougher guy who's going to be more demanding and see how that works. I wouldn't be afraid to do that with this group of players because I think they're still young enough to get something out of it, yet they've all been around long enough, especially Morant and Jackson, that I think they'll see the value in a little bit of a tougher guy.
Yeah, absolutely. Last night, Grizzlies lost to the Boston Celtics. Look up, Celtics 14-1 in their last 15 games. What have you seen over the last month from the Celtics team?
They're dangerous, and I think they're going to win an NBA championship.
Wow.
I think that Joe Mazzulla and Brad Stevens have done a masterful job over the last month in continuing to have the team play competitively, yet strategically resting guys at the right times. Little things like, listen, Porzingis got sick. They held him out an extra week claiming he was still sick. They held him out an extra week to rest him. He would have been fine to play if he wanted to play. But they understand that where last year they got through the East and had Porzingis play very little, and they were able to win a championship, you're not going to do that this year against Cleveland. You have to match up with Mobley and Allen, and if you can't match up with Mobley and Allen, Cleveland will beat you. And Porzingis is the key element to matching up with them. So that's the one caveat. But I look at what Joe Mazzulla's done, and it's been masterful. Last night, Jaylen Brown didn't play. They're picking their spots when to sit these guys. They had a game last week against Brooklyn that they managed to pull out at home without Tatum or Brown. They have just pressed all the right buttons for this team, and after the first half of the year where you had moments where it felt like fatigue was starting to set in a little bit and almost a little bit of boredom, that all has kind of been worked out a little bit. Listen, your Olympic guys, specifically White and Holiday, did not play well the first half of the year, and there was definitely some fatigue involved and some Olympic hangover. But they rested Holiday a lot and maybe, exaggerated some injuries with him to get him some extra rest, made like he was more hurt than he was and sat him a little bit extra. White has slowly rounded into form here. And I think the Celtics right now look like a team that's peaking at the exact right time. They're also going to catch a break because all four teams that are in the play-in are not great teams. The one team that I think could be, maybe Orlando could be a pain, maybe even Atlanta could be a pain. But in the end, the Celtics aren't going to struggle with any of those teams. The first round in the East for the top seeds is not going to be like the first round in the West.
Speaking of the West, right now, Oklahoma City, far and away, number 1 seed. They've got it locked up already. But who finishes out as the number 2 seed? Right now, Houston is in the 2 seed, but they're only a game and a half ahead of Denver, only 2.5 games ahead of the Lakers. Who ultimately is the number 2 seed in the West?
I think it's likely to be the Rockets. I love the way the Rockets have played. Amen Thompson is back now. Van Vliet is back now. And I think the important thing to understand about the Rockets, they're just a different team with Freddie Van Vliet on the floor. It's a different look. It's a different feel. I used the term before about the Grizzlies, an adult in the room. Yeah. That's the Rockets' adult in the room. And, yes, they have Dylan Brooks there, too, who plays a vital role on that team. But Van Vliet is the guy that all the young guys respect, and he's a unifier there. And I think he's a really, real key factor. Listen, I don't think the Rockets win more than a round in this year's playoffs. I just don't think they have the experience to be able to do that. They remind me a whole lot of the OKC Thunder last year. And that's a massive compliment for where I think Houston's going. They still need to find out who is going to be the guy for them. Maybe it's Jalen Green. Maybe it's Alperen Şengün. Maybe it's Damon Thompson. Like, who knows? But they're still figuring out how to mesh together all this young talent. But the one thing that's consistent, and listen, you guys understand this, if you guard consistently in this league, even if you have some issues on offense, if you guard consistently, you're going to win a lot of games. and the Rockets are an excellent defensive team. So I think they're going to kind of stay in the 2. I think for Denver's almost got to be careful. Listen, you don't want to draw the Thunder in the second round, so you want to stay in the 3 and stay ahead of the Lakers. You also don't want to gut yourself and take any kind of unnecessary risk to try to get your way into that 2 against an inexperienced Rockets team that's going to struggle with Nikola Jokic for an entire series. So you have to be careful about that. So listen, the flip side is that, if Denver gets into the 2 and the standings hold as is, maybe they draw Minnesota, who has proven to have Denver's number. So that's another thing that kind of Denver, I think, has to consider here. But looking at everything, the way Houston's playing, and I know they lost to the Lakers last night, but it was a back-to-back. And I still think Houston ends up staying in that 2 seed here in the West.
So 2 months from today will be June 1. Cleveland, Boston will decide the East. Oklahoma City, and who decides the West?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I will tell you, this is going to be the ultimate contest in the Western Conference, okay, between experience and youth. Because ultimately, there are a handful of very experienced teams that could all make a conference final. So, listen, the Lakers, if they stay in 4, are going to have a tough time because I don't think the Lakers can beat the Thunder. So I don't know that it's going to be them. But you look at the 2, 3, 6 side of this draw, which is Rockets, Nuggets, Warriors, that becomes interesting. If somehow the Clippers or the Timberwolves creep in there, one of those teams could do it. Remember I said earlier that the Timberwolves have the Nuggets number. I would not be surprised if Minnesota finds its way into the 6 if they reach a conference final. I wouldn't be surprised if the Clippers or the Warriors find their way into 6 and they reach a conference final. Here's the point that I'm making. The team that lands in 6 is going to have a chance of beating Houston or Denver. A good chance. Just because the experience level, guys, and I think it's so important to note, and it dovetails into a larger Oklahoma City conversation, but the experience that you have with the Warriors, Curry, Green, Jimmy Butler, playoff experience, you're going deep into playoffs. The experience that you have with the L.A. Clippers, Kawhi Leonard, 2-time finals MVP, James Harden having the best year he's had in the last 5 years for the Clippers this year. That kind of experience there. Guys that have been deep in the playoffs a bunch of times. That's dangerous. Even Minnesota went to a conference final last year, and yes, Anthony Edwards is a young player, but Rudy Gobert's been around the block a long time there. So is Mike Conley. The experience factor versus the youth is going to be interesting. Now, I will say this. In the regular season, youth has been served in the NBA. Cleveland's a young team. Even Boston, I know they have Al Horford there and Holiday, but their core in Brown, Tatum, and Porzingis is still plenty young. You look in the West. Obviously, OKC has been the best team in the league this year. They're a very young team. The Rockets are a young team. The Grizzlies are a pretty young team. So youth has been served a lot in the regular season. Whether that remains in the playoffs is going to be, a big storyline this year, especially in the Western Conference.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to see how it all plays out. Brian, as always, thanks so much for joining. So much fun having you on. Let's do it again soon.
I look forward to it, guys. It's always my pleasure. You take care.
Thank you, Brian.
Brian Gelsiler joining us to talk the NBA. Make sure you check him out. SiriusXM NBA Radio. He does a great job over there. We always love having him on to chat NBA. And it's going to be fun to see how all of this plays out. I do love what he said. Boston maybe clicking at the right time, 14-1 in their last 15 games. We called it last night against the Grizzlies, and maybe they're clicking at the right time, and that propels them into the playoffs, into another big run, maybe another NBA title. But let's go ahead and get to another break. When we come back, we're going to talk some Major League Baseball. It's been a fun start to the season, but a lot of news, a lot of results to talk about. We'll do that next on Sports Time.
Start your day with Sports 56 Mornings with Greg Gaston and Eli Savoy. Weekday mornings from 7 to 10, right here on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
Hi, this is Troy Fiveash, owner of Fiveash Roofing. Did you know there are so many roofing companies in Memphis that I don't even know them all? So that begs the question, which one should you choose? So I thought I'd give you a little background about me. My grandfather was a World War II Marine. My father worked for the University of Memphis for nearly 30 years. My mother, a pianist at Raleigh Baptist Church. Seems like forever. I went to Brownsville Road, Craigmont, and Bartlett High School, class of 81. We support the local school systems, youth athletics, and believe in what St. Jude and Le Bonheur stand for. I'm a Tiger and Grizz fan. point? Memphis is my home. 5 Roofing will be around if you ever have a problem with the service we provide. 5 Roofing, fair, honest, and ethical, with deep local ties in our community. 367-0050 or memphisroofer.com.
5 Roofing is what we do. We're here for you.
If wedding bells are in your future, you need an unforgettable engagement ring from a jeweler you can trust. And that's been James Gaddis Jewelers for over 60 years. With a huge selection and the best prices, James Gaddis is a master jeweler and diamondologist. Beautiful jewelry from James Gaddis is always the right choice. Choose from rings to earrings, necklaces to bracelets, and gemstones to watches. Layaway and financing available. James Gaddis Jewelers, 4900 Poplar, online at GaddisJewelers.com and Instagram at Gaddis Jewelers. Say I do at James Gaddis Jewelers.
Join us celebrating 26 years of Napa Cafe. Hi, I'm Glenda Hastings, owner of Napa Cafe, and I'm inviting you over for dinner. Treat yourself tonight with a delightful dinner of scrumptious combinations, fresh salads, homemade soups, or maybe start with an appetizer, like our baked Dungeness crab dip with manchego cheese, lemon, garlic, and French baguette toast. Drift into one of our fresh seafood dishes, like the caramelized sea scallops with curry beurre blanc, black forbidden rice, and Thai mango salad. Or our ancho honey glazed salmon with creamy black bean puree, avocado pico de gallo, and jalapeno crema. Maybe you're looking for something cozy and comforting, like our Duroc pork chop with apple brandy demi-glaze and blue cheese bacon mashed potatoes. We have something for everyone. Napa Cafe, open Wednesday through Saturday for dinner starting at 5 o'clock. For reservations, visit our website at napacafe.com. Come join us as we celebrate 26 years of Napa Cafe. I'd sure love to see you.
Attention homeowners, it's time to score big with Choate's air conditioning, heating, plumbing, and generators. For the first 50 callers who purchase a new carrier system, generator, or tankless water heater, choose between 60 months of no interest financing or free air duct cleaning, a $500 value. Plus, don't miss our $39 February deals. Choose from a furnace tune-up, a sewer inspection, or an electrical panel inspection. It's the perfect way to prepare your home for the season. But hurry, this winning deal ends February 28th. Don't fumble this opportunity to claim these amazing offers. Call Choates today at 347-8086. And remember, Choates, let our family serve your family.
Now, back to Sports Time. Sports University. This hour is brought to you by Lexus Service. Here are your hosts, Sports Brian Davis.
Welcome back in Sports Time. Bryant and Brett with you in our Family Leisure Studios, and we got to talk some Major League Baseball. It's been a really fun start to the season, but we do have a lot of news, including Jurickson Profar suspended 80 games for banned substances.
And out in the postseason. So, yeah, not great news for this Braves team that everybody had
really
in some playoff spot.
Oh yeah, and a really slow start.
Just
for them.
5 games in, but
sure, still very early. But Jurickson Profar, they're gonna be without him.
You can fly that. There's a lot of baseball.
Oh yeah,
to play flag
for a long time
until about 15th of September.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
There's always a lot of baseball left to play.
Always plenty of baseball.
So Bright last night, leave the Grizzlies game, disappointed, get in the car, turn on KMOX, listening to the Cardinals. John Rooney coming in loud and clear. Cardinals kind of blow a shot in the bottom of the ninth. Had a little something going. And then I said it.
Yep.
And now we start Church League softball with how they do extra innings.
Yep. Yeah.
The old Ghost Runner.
The old Ghost Runner, and
I can see it in minor leagues. I prefer it in minor leagues instead of staying there till 1:30 at night like I have at AutoZone Park.
Oh yes, but very different in the majors and
major leagues are big leaguers. We play baseball till we have a winner.
Yeah, and so
we got to get that back, don't we? It's gone though. In fact, we're not getting that back.
No.
We will lose it postseason, before we get it back regular season.
Absolutely. You know, we always talk about around postseason. Let one of those games, you know, that kind of, you know, afternoon game go 15, 16 innings, completely runs all the way into the next game, and Major League Baseball is going to say, no chance. Let's
Brian,
change things.
I never even thought about it. You're right. You're right over the target. Not only do we get it in the postseason, we get it on the fly in the postseason.
You're definitely right.
We get it the next day after that. We don't get we're doing it next year. We're doing it tonight.
Yeah, we're gonna. What's the next game on the schedule? Okay, implement it there.
That might be divorce point with me in baseball.
Yeah, it might be. I think last night was a perfect example of.
Divorce points is when you spent players are allowed to go back in a 17 inning affair.
That's right.
That the next day they go to that on the fly.
That's right. Which you never know. You could see it, but I mean, last night was a perfect example of why you shouldn't have the ghost runner. I mean, Angels top of the 10th score 2 runs. No hits,
no hits, and they start that inning with their best base runner.
Yeah.
In the Cardinals, since he was the last out, they have their catcher Pie as their guy out there.
Yeah, and so I mean, they get a hit, but and score a run, but could not win the game because the Angels scored 2 runs on no hits in the top of the 10th. So I just, it's weird. I was watching it with my dad last night, and he goes, "Wait a minute. How'd that guy get on second?" I go, "Oh, you forgot.
Yeah.
We got a ghost runner. It's different now, but I don't think it's going anywhere, Brett. I think you better get used to it."
I don't either. All the deep dive analytical people. So we've had it starting with the COVID year, and it was permanent in 21. So we've had it a while.
Yeah.
Any big results back on? Would you be better off to walk a guy and have first and second, nobody out?
Yeah, I haven't seen anything. I know last night watching the game on FanDuel Sports Network, they were talking about how they had read somewhere or there had been studies done since it started that showed bunting in the top of the inning is not very productive. That, bunting in the bottom of the inning, if you only need 1 run, certainly, have that sacrifice bunt.
You know the number you have to get
move it to third, but the idea of just get up there in the top of the inning, bunt, and just try to get a run, try to scratch a run, that is, since it started, has not, been a good way
of all the sports, and we will talk with Bo Marchand about this, NFL's changing regular season, overtime, it's going to go to like playoff. Baseball has it, they do it the worst. They do it worse than college football.
Absolutely, no question about it.
The best overtime's college basketball and the NBA. They play extra 5 minutes.
Yeah, just continue to play like you're playing
until we got to play till 3 a.m.
Yeah, we'll see what the score is.
If you leave.
Yeah, and I think that's how it should be, and almost kind of one of the.
And if a big leaguer's tired the next day, shucks.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. That was kind of the meticulous beauties of the game of baseball is, hey, if you're tied, who knows when you're going to get out of here? Who knows when that game's going to end?
I sat through the longest Cardinal extra inning win ever.
Really?
16 innings in 2019 against the Dodgers.
Holy
I was with a friend of mine. His wife called about the 12th inning, said, "Please tell me y'all have left." No, we haven't left.
Absolutely.
By that point, we had the box to ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. So you got to stay. But no, I mean, and we're seeing a lot of
the nice lady in the suite came by about the 13th inning. She said, would y'all mind if I go home? We go, no, we'll be fine. We'll clean up.
We'll turn the lights off when we're done. But we're seeing a lot of runs. Yesterday, a ton of runs all over Major League Baseball. Royals, 11 runs. White Sox, 9 runs. Orioles, 8 runs. Mets, 10. Reds, 14. Cubs, 18. Runs all over the place. So it has been run heavy to start the year. But let's go ahead, wrap up this hour, get to a break. When we return, talking college basketball and college football with Brent Beard.
Showboats fans, the boats are back in action with a 1:30 kickoff on Saturday, April 12th at Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium as they take on the Houston Roughnecks in a special Memphis wrestling-themed game, the Showboats Showdown. Come see all the football action of the UFL and enjoy wrestling matches pregame and a special halftime main event. More football, more wrestling, more Showboats. Get your tickets today at UFLShowboats.com. That's UFLShowboats.com. Go Boats!
Must qualify for enrollment. Results may vary.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. Call now. 800-575-8924. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS. Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start. Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems. We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com or call 800-575-8924. That's 800-575-8924. Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
Spring is here, and it's the perfect time to give your home a little love with Choate's $93 spring deals. Got a slow or smelly drain? We'll clear it for just $93, or it's free if we can't. Also, your home's electrical system is working 24/7 behind the walls, and an inspection from Choate's can help catch hidden dangers before they become big problems. We're talking about outdated or overloaded panels, loose wiring that can spark fires, improper grounding or GFCI protection, breaker issues, flickering lights, and more. Our licensed electricians will perform a full home safety check, identify risks, and give you a plan to keep your family safe and your power running strong. All for just $93. Call 347-8086 or visit ChoatesHVAC.com to book your appointment today. Choates Air Conditioning, Heating, Plumbing, and Electrical. Let our family serve your family.
Good afternoon, filling out paperwork on the wreck. It's been over here for a while on 40 westbound, just past Sycamore View Road as you get up on that flyover there on 240. Again, it's trying to improve a little bit, but it's still heavy on 40 west, approaching that 240 flyover coming from Sycamore View Road. As you head eastbound the other direction, that's only going to get busier in the next 15-20 minutes on I-40 as you continue out towards Fayette County. Weimer's Jewelry, your diamond engagement ring headquarters this bridal season that's coming up. It's just around the corner. Go by and see them at Weimer's Jewelry on Highway 64. I'm Commander Chuck with your on-time traffic.
Sports 56, WHBQ Memphis, and W253DF Memphis with John Martin. Weekdays from 11 to 1. College football talk every Tuesday with Brent Beard, Heisman voter, and on Twitter X at Brent Beard. SEC, ACC, AAC, we talk it all with Brent. Here's Brent Beard with Brian and
Brent Beard joins us now from First Coast News down in Jacksonville.
Oh, Grandpa.
That's right, Grandpa.
Thank you.
Brent Beard talking college football and college basketball. A lot to get to, Brent. Let's start with the big news this afternoon in college basketball. Buzz Williams, he's going to take the Maryland job. It was one that immediately when that job came open, he was the biggest name out there to get that job. He's now taking it. Where do you think Texas A&M goes now?
I don't know. That's a good question. Look, I like Buzz. I thought Buzz did a pretty good job there. I mean, they never really won like they wanted to. And obviously it's a football school, and that's just the honest truth about it.
Yeah.
So it was probably a good move. I mean, he goes to Maryland. They're more into basketball. I mean, they're trying to make an attempt to get football better. But I mean, the reality is, guys, they should have went further in the tournament. I mean, their last game was typical. They had a lead. They blew the lead. Couldn't do anything offensively. So I will be interested to see how his style fits in at Maryland too.
And I jokingly said, "Is it a football school?" They sure say they are, and with Kyle Stadium and all that goes with it, and I guess the history of it, I don't know, but that history book is that thick. The two most noteworthy things they've ever done was Johnny Manziel and Bear damn near killing all of them.
With
the Junction Boys. Outside of Manziel in that first 2 years in the league, what have they really added?
Yeah. Listen, they have been, to your point, Brent, basically a very average football team that is either 7-5 or 8-4. I mean,
basketball's about the same. It's 20-10.
It is absolutely, and frankly, when you're in a league like this, that is in the middle of the pack, and that's why I'm sure that fan base wants better.
I'm sure they do. Now, hired by Ross Bjork, and now the AD at A&M, Trev Alberts, ultimate football guy. There are a lot of names bouncing around. Pete Nakos at On3 has just tweeted out an infographic that, in no order, the number 1 and number 2 candidates are Chris Jans and Chris Beard.
Yeah. Well,
so that would be somebody in Mississippi looking for a coach.
Boy, yeah. And Chris Jans has done, I think, done a kind of an under the radar job with Mississippi State. I mean, I love Chris Beard with what they've done at Ole Miss. I think he'd be wise to stay there. I mean, obviously, A&M can pay you a lot of money, and that would be the draw. Would they have a lot of NIL money to go along with that? But yeah, we're seeing the different things now in the conference. When Brett and I first got in this medium, it's taboo a good word, Brett? It was almost taboo that you would not go from one conference team to the other, but now we're at the point where no one bats an eye toward that.
And you know who really kind of started that was Eddie Fogler from Vandy to South Carolina. Brent, that was controversial and taboo of you don't do that. That was out there.
It was. Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, it didn't
and that was right in there with Tuberville in football, and now it's very all too common.
Well, and it certainly didn't cause the consternation that Brother Oliver going from Alabama to Auburn.
Yeah, that was a big story when he did that, and that was just to run the defense.
Yeah, really.
And I say those kind of nasty things about A&M. I'm still glad they're in the league for no other reason as how badly Gene Stallings wanted them in.
Oh yeah.
That's enough for me.
Yeah. There's no question about that. I agree. But yeah, I mean that's going to be fascinating to see where they go. And look, this is their opportunity to get better, and really particularly have a better offensive system. So hopefully they will be able to do that. And look, I mean, with the league, if they improve on buzz, that would even make the league stronger, and it's pretty strong right now.
In the history of the Southeastern Conference, we know in basketball, number 1's Big Blue, Kentucky.
Yes.
Florida's number 2, regardless of what they do this weekend in San Antonio, aren't they?
They're certainly up there.
And only add to it if they cut nets down next Monday night.
I can tell you that they really would. And there's and you see this every time these things happen. We're an hour and a half from the Florida campus, and the increased Gator flags and signs and T-shirts and caps and things like that have risen substantially, as you two would imagine.
Absolutely. And so now, I mean, like Brett was saying, Final Four is set, 2 SEC teams. We know one SEC team will be in the national championship game. But we make a Florida in that comeback they had over Texas Tech. I mean, it felt like Texas Tech, kind of had them there in the second half, but just as quick, Florida able to come back and win.
They were beat against UConn, and they were really beat against Texas Tech.
Yeah, and look, let's be honest about this. In Florida's last 2 games, they won it, and they won it at the end, and that's really the thing that matters most of all. But to use a college football playoff committee word, Florida did not control their last two games at all, did they, guys?
Oh, Brent, I love game control, especially on April Fool's Day. That's what your new grandson should call you, game control.
I like that. Yes, absolutely.
That'd be really good, yeah. But I mean, hey, Florida, they have done what they needed to do at the end of games, and while they've kind of been, struggling, finding ways to win at the end, Duke on the other side has really been dominating every single game they've played in this NCAA tournament. And the way that John Shire put this roster together, they have the elite freshmen, but they also have those veteran guys that have been around college basketball to really supplement what they kind of miss in that veteran experience from those young freshmen.
And to your point, Brian, what Duke has done, I mean, in the Alabama game, for instance, I mean, Alabama did frankly a decent defensive job on Flag, and they, I mean, Flag didn't get 25 to 30 points, so they held him down. But Duke is so good that their other teammates are able to fill the breach. And they really didn't miss a beat. They are so well coached. And I know we're concentrating a lot on Auburn and Florida, and we should. And I'm very happy that we are. People have no idea, if I haven't seen them yet, how good Houston and Duke really are. I mean, listen, as Brian, as Brett told me years ago, Houston is one of those teams where they guard you when you're getting off the bus, even before you're in the arena.
They're just hard to play. Like Michigan State.
Yes.
I mean, it just just a lot of the cutting, the screening, the getting through a screen. It's just a tough, well drilled team. I'm having a real. I'm for the SEC on the left side. I am, but I would be fine with Kelvin Sampson winning it all.
Yeah, yes. Look, what he's done there, and people will probably see this week, he has hired a lot of people, and I'm not saying this is nepotism, but he's hired a lot of people from his family.
He's hired them all.
Yes. I'm guessing the family dog has some job for them.
Everybody's got a job.
Yeah. But I mean, they're all close. It all
but
works.
He's producing, so no problem.
And listen, he made this is fascinating to have heard this. He talked about his team for about 10 minutes the other day, and not one time did he mention the word talent. I mean, they have got. He knows what he's looking for in these players. And look, it's not that he's going to turn talent down, but he's in a situation where you either fit his blueprint or you don't go and play there.
I guess you've seen the note that this is Auburn's second trip to the Final Four since their last 10-win football season. But they rolled Toomer's Corner. They should have. They will Saturday afternoon, and they will have a party right there on that beautiful campus if they win next Monday night. How much of the off-season talking game will they get to do against Alabama with that national basketball championship if they win it before we talk again next?
Oh, if they win it, there's no doubt they'll be loud and proud.
They should.
And,
Victor gets
I
talked.
mean, look, listen, if you, if you win the national championship, you ought to be able to brag for, 364 days before the next season begins, or however long that is. There's certainly nothing wrong with that. Look, Alabama and Auburn fans are going at each other, even if it's marbles or something like that. That's just the way that it is. But I can tell you this: whoever wins, either Auburn or Florida, is going to. I'm telling you guys, and Brent said it a minute ago, they're going to have a heck of a time beating the winner of that Duke Houston game.
Oh yeah, they absolutely will. Who do you have winning that game between Auburn and Florida? Florida.
I picked the Gators several weeks ago, and I still think they will win. But I'll tell you this, though, guys. Listen, this just falling behind by double digits and coming back and making a miraculous win, that's going to stop and going to stop now, because from here on in, that strategy ain't going to work.
Yeah, you run into teams now. I'm really surprised they got through Texas Tech doing it. Even UConn, when you're down 10, instead of coming back, you lose by 20.
Sure you do. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Now their bigs, I know Walter Clayton Jr. was instrumental at the end, but their bigs were so important in that game. And see, that's the great thing about the length of these guys. They can block shots, but they can also, and obviously they can dunk with their height. But they're not afraid of shooting threes. It's the threes, and they can get them. So they are so deep. But they've got to play better if they're going to beat Auburn.
What's in spring football? What is the best quarterback battle in the SEC in the spring?
Well, I would have probably said Ty Simpson in Alabama at first, but
he's separated, hasn't he?
Yeah, I think it's pretty obvious. Now
but he's Mr. April.
Sure,
he's all coming out of A-Day. It always looks like he's going to be the trigger man in the fall, and he hadn't been.
Well, the problem with Simpson is he's needed to grow up, and look. As you guys know, the mental aspect of this is important as the physical aspect of it. And if you start crumbling mentally, that's a problem. And look, that was a problem for Jalen Milroe last year. Milroe would throw an interception or fumble the ball, and mentally he was out of the game for a quarter.
He missed Coach Saban in that system more than anyone.
Oh, yeah.
He really did, didn't he? Yeah.
And I'm not talking about being ugly to anybody, but just probably when we would never see it of, settle down.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And look, the mistake they made last year with the Alabama coaches, they really should have said, look, Jalen, you need a break. We're going to put Simpson in. We're going to see what he can do, and then we're going to put you back in a little bit. So just go over there and relax.
Well, kind of tried that the year before. That didn't work out real well down at South Florida.
Yeah, no. But that's a good question. This is a year, Brett, to where compared to last year, I mean, we know where a lot of this is going. I mean, the Auburn situation, is going to be interesting. They've got a hotshot freshman like Alabama does, Prince kid. Is he going to get involved with this? But right now, you've got. I mean, South Carolina knows who theirs is. Georgia is. They'll say they've got a competition.
Texas
LSU's
knows.
got one
Ole
of the
Miss
best.
knows.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So
Arkansas knows.
Yeah, they do. So compared to what we've seen before, I mean, there may be some with Mississippi State. I think they've got a couple of guys who are certainly credible and can get it done.
Vandy knows.
Absolutely. So there's going to be a lot less mystery. I mean, last year during media days, I mean, there were questions galore. This year, they won't be near as many as they were.
No, they definitely won't. I think last week we talked about, maybe the week before, talked about the idea Colorado and Syracuse trying to get a joint spring game, joint spring practices. The NCAA denied that request by the schools. Were you surprised that got turned down?
The fun fighters always make their way.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, here's what they said about that. They said because, and I'm. I wanted to just throw my hands up and say, what does it matter? But they said in their comment on it, well, we've had some spring games played already. But I mean, here's the reality of it is if you look, try it again next year or try it earlier and see. The reason we're going to eventually do this is because they need another revenue stream, and they just need more money, and I think that's what we'll get.
But it crossed across Dr. No's desk at the NCAA. The administrator, I say no to everything.
Oh yeah. The that's like the old deacon running to the church meeting, and they say, and somebody catches him and says, "Well, what you voting on?" And he says, "I don't know, but I'm against it."
Exactly. We don't do that here.
Yeah. But I think if they'll take a look at that they may get something done with it. I'm still not sure the coaches are going to go for it, but I think from the fan aspect of it, it'd be great. I tell you the thing that if people haven't seen it yet, this Coastal Carolina thing of giving free food is a very interesting marketing strategy. I'm wondering who's going to take advantage of that, because I know schools make a lot of money off of their food. But Brett and I had this conversation years ago. Brett made a point, and I thought about this later. Is the schools in some way, with raising these prices and these things going sky high and barely being able to afford them, they've got to do something to give back to the fans.
They sure do.
And this may be one of those things that they could do. I don't know
it's
how.
fork in the road time too, Brent.
It
there
really
are fans
is.
out there that are really tired of catching it coming and going.
Yes, and not only are they paying these tickets, but they're being asked to contribute to the NIL and all. Help us fund a new stadium, or at least the improvement.
And never mind just the old-fashioned giving to the library and to the Alumni Association.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's no doubt about that.
Those fundraising arms around a university, they've been hit hard.
Sure they have. Sure, and listen, you've got donor fatigue is what they're calling it. And probably some of these folks, when they see the phone number from their favorite school, they're not answering that phone as much as they were before.
Yeah, they've kind of had enough, and every place is worried about this. Churches are worried about it. Civic clubs are worried about it. Country clubs are worried about it. All around these colleges and universities, they're worried if the next generation will be as gung-ho about it as kind of the 60 and older that they have been.
Well, let me tell you a quick example of that is, I speak to my share of different alumni and booster clubs, and the real concern is those clubs, guys, are getting smaller, and they're getting smaller because
touchdown clubs, quarterback clubs are getting smaller by age. They're older and smaller.
Yeah, your
20s and 30s aren't replacing it.
No, they're not. They're really. And number one, that they're not coming and they're not giving either. So yes, that's a real challenge on how to deal with that.
Brent, okay, I know the colleges need to, but at some point to the fan, look, I can't make it just like you're sitting in your den.
Yeah, well, true.
I mean, you still have to kind of get out there and throw some sharp elbows on game day.
Yeah, well, and I understand that, and I know they can't do anything about the weather. They can't dome everywhere and have the air conditioning going.
We could relax the 5 miles for one small thunderstorm cell, and we shut again a couple years ago. Ole Miss in Tulsa, I had to apply sunscreen during a weather delay.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
because there was a cloud that was just too close.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And there was lightning 70 miles away. Look, I understand you can't put people in harm's way. I get that, but Brett's point's a good one. A lot of times these things are cleared up very quickly. But again, it's a major challenge that we'll be talking about a lot during the off season.
Yeah, we absolutely will. Well, Brent, as always, thanks so much for joining us. Next time we talk with you, we'll have a national champion in college basketball. It'll definitely be fun to talk about next week. Brent, enjoy the week, and we'll do it again next Tuesday.
Yeah, love it, guys. Talk to you next week. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Brent. Brent Beard with us every week talking college football and college basketball. And we know one SEC team will be in the finals, and Duke and Houston will be some game. And that's the marquee matchup.
Yeah, no, I'm excited about that one. I'd rank them. I'm excited about both of them. Obviously, all number 1 seeds, but Houston and Duke, just the idea of that game and what it could turn into. That's going to be really fun. And you know that one of them will get, whoever wins that game will get an SEC team, and that will make for really a thrilling national championship.
And would be a first for Shira, Golden, or Kelvin Sampson. Well, it'd be a first for any of these coaches and Pearl.
That's right.
To win it all.
Yeah, so we're going to have a new national champion
First
head
time
coach.
for schools, Auburn and Houston.
Yeah, so that'll be a lot of fun. Plenty of storylines. As much as it's the chalky all number 1 seeds, there are plenty of storylines in this Final Four.
It sure is. And as we get closer to Saturday and to tip time of the first one, it will only grow. When Bruce Pearl was hired at Auburn, I thought it was a smart idea, but I was still a little scared of him and thought he might get them in some trouble. He hadn't. No. He done a great job. And now in his 10th season.
Yeah, crazy.
In second Final Four.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about, really, Auburn and Houston. Both of those schools, when these coaches took over, they were not the, big time,
When Duke in Florida.
No, certainly wasn't. And, Houston, complete bottom of the barrel in terms of what Kelvin Sampson took over and kind of similar with, at Auburn for Bruce Pearl. And so the way that they have built those two programs and, where they're at now and now an opportunity to win national championships, it's just really, really cool to see.
So who would be third? Kentucky won all time in basketball, 2 Florida, regardless of what they do this weekend. Who would be 3?
It's a difficult question.
Arkansas?
I would probably say Arkansas. Certainly the history there.
30 years since the last Final Four.
That's the
31 since winning it, but they did.
Yeah, it hasn't been recent.
LSU hadn't won it.
But I would probably say you have to have that history in there, and so I would say probably Arkansas number 3. After that, it gets a little murky, but
it does.
It really, I mean, it's really it takes a drop off after that.
Tennessee.
Yeah, but I mean, then you're in the conversation of no Final Fours.
That's right.
And, so does that take over? Some of these other schools that have made Final Four. That's the question. I really
Alabama just did last year.
Exactly. Auburn's right here. Certainly a lot of success in recent history.
And Alabama's resume before having made that Final Four was pretty good. That was a big piece of really filling in now to win it all.
Yeah. So
elevate them.
I would say it's probably one of those 3 would be next in line.
Yesterday, I said Memphis had a better all-time basketball history than Houston. I thought about that. Do they?
It's tough. It's close.
7 Final Fours to 3. Houston with 2 or 3 final losses. NC State, way back to UCLA.
Yeah.
With Elvin Hayes, and to Georgetown and Seattle. So they've lost 3. I don't. But they just disappeared for so long.
That's the thing.
While the Tigers were doing something and some good runs.
It was so strong, but then it was just completely nothing for such a long time.
It's a tough one. I think it's Memphis by nose.
Yeah, but it's close. I mean, there can be
one more
arguments on both
final
sides.
appearance would they draw?
I think so. Yeah, I think
so slightly past them.
I think it could be neck and neck then.
Yeah.
But I do think it's an argument there because both have history there. But I would say the downs of Memphis basketball hasn't been what it was at Houston.
Yeah, Houston got real down.
Yeah, no, it was really ugly there for a while. But the
Tigers again this year. I know it's not any special benchmark anymore, but to not have 20-win seasons now. All of the 21st century, the last one was the Johnny Jones interim year to not have 20.
Yeah.
That's not down.
No, that's very impressive. But a lot of college basketball talk, and we'll continue that. Let's get to a break. When we come back, we're going to talk all things college basketball. Mark Wise from ESPN, he'll join us talk college basketball and the Final Four. That's next on Sports Time.
Be sure to follow us at Sports56 WHBQ on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube to watch live video of our shows. Stay up to date with station events and have chances to win prizes. Don't miss out on anything that's going on. Follow us at Sports 56 WHBQ.
At Jason's Deli, when you're dining in or picking up curbside, you can expect wholesome food and no surprises, just delicious sandwiches, crisp salads, and quick quality meals made with the freshest ingredients and no artificial trans fats, MSG, high fructose corn syrup, or artificial colors and dyes. Around here, a lot of thought goes into what we put into our food and what we take out of it, because you're not just taking a bite, you're getting a taste of who we are. New items are constantly being created to expand our menu for all tastes and special diets with vegan and gluten-free options available. Convenience and on-time delivery you can count on. It's just a click away at jasonsdeli.com, so whether you need to feed 5 people or 5,000, the team at Jason's Deli, they have the credentials and the commitment to keep you satisfied. Freshness is nearby at Jason's Deli with locations at Ridgeway in the Park Place Center, Poplar and Highland, Germantown Road in Cordova, and on Goodman Road in Olive Branch. Jason's Deli. It's wholesome food and no surprises.
Since 1948, in the alley, the Rendezvous. I'm with John Vargas. John, what's going on in the Rendezvous? Brett, after 76 years, we've decided to expand our product line. Anyone who's tasted our ribs is familiar with our vinegar base. It's now available in the 32-ounce jar. It's so good the base will marinate all meats. I even put a little bit on turnip greens. Something we've been using at the restaurant or at our house has been a Greek seasoning. My father was a cook, but my mother was a chef. And she was the one that put Greek seasoning on everything from the Mediterranean diet to steak. My mom used it on soup, salad, veggies, fish, any meat. It's a great seasoning and a flavor enhancer. My brother Nick figured out salt and pepper is more than just McCormick's and Morton's. He's come up with the perfect blend we use to coat our shoulders and our brisket, and he used to make it for his friends as Christmas gifts, and they loved it. All these products are available at Rendezvous or online for shipping as gifts and in many grocery stores. And if they're not in your favorite grocery store, ask your grocer to stock it. A beloved family affair is still going strong since 1948. Rendezvous.
Drivers who switch and save with Progressive could save hundreds. With that kind of money, for speedy security. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates not available in all states. Potential savings will vary.
Do you know one of the best things you can do for your employees or family's health? Provide Arctic Clear bottled water. Arctic Clear bottled water is your locally owned and operated bottled water provider. Arctic Clear is 100% natural spring water with free delivery instead of dependable service and no long-term contracts. An easy choice. Call Jeff Menas today, 901-382-2363, or visit arctic-clear.com. Arctic Clear bottled water. Call now 382-2363. That's 382-2363.
This traffic brought to you by Brinson Tax Service. They protect you like family.
Sports 56 traffic.
Good afternoon. This wrecking is clearing stages. They're filling out paperwork. It's been out here for a while on 40 westbound, right at that 240 flyover. That's why traffic's been a little bit slower than normal as you work your way down past Sycamore View Road on 40 going westbound, approaching that flyover. Again, we're hoping it's going to improve over here sooner than later because it's been out here now for over an hour as it starts to build out of Midtown on 240 southbound and South Parkway. If your lawn needs a little bit of help, call Lawn Solutions. They'll make your grass greener and healthier. Lawn Solutions, that telephone number is easy. It's 867-5626. I'm Commander Chuck with your on-time traffic.
Welcome back into Sports Time. Bryant and Brett with you live and local in our Family Leisure studios. We've talked a lot of college basketball, so you know we got to talk with Mark Wise from ESPN, all things college basketball and the Final Four. Mark, thanks so much for joining us. The Final Four is set, and we've heard a lot of this year. Well, this isn't as good of a tournament because there's not the Cinderellas. It's very chalky. Brett and I have agreed we like it with the big boys dominating, the big boys getting through, makes kind of that second weekend and certainly the Final Four more competitive. How have you viewed this tournament this year, as chalky as it's been?
I view it as who needs Cinderella. when the four teams that are playing are this good. It's a heavyweight double header on Saturday. Ken Palm and Brett knows this for years because I've been a huge Ken Palm fan. These four teams, since Ken Palm's been keeping his statistical analysis, these four, and that's 1996 to 1997, I think is when he started. These four teams are in the top 10 of all time of how they have performed.
Crazy.
So to say it's a heavyweight matchup doubleheader on Saturday is really an understatement. I think it'll be fabulous. Now remember this, I get the argument about the trend, and we'll have to see whether or not the trend away from Cinderella will continue. But, NC State, was NC State a Cinderella or was their story a Cinderella? So
I think the run they got on
NC State as a story to me was being Cinderella. It's like Arkansas this year. You're telling me Arkansas is a 10 seed is a Cinderella story? No. Then we've redefined Cinderella.
Yeah, John Calipari's never Cinderella.
Right.
How much they spent on that roster.
Yeah.
They had the glass. They bought the glass slipper.
They did.
Yeah.
John L. Davis owns it.
That's right. Yeah. Well, when you view these two games for the Final Four, we know we'll have one SEC team in the national championship. Let's start with that game, Auburn and Florida. How do you expect this one to play out? Who do you think advances to the national championship?
Well, I don't think everybody wants to make a big deal about Florida winning at Auburn in the regular season, and it was a big deal because they beat Auburn without Elijah Martin in that game. But you also have to remember that Florida made 13 threes, and what do I always say? It comes down, man, you got to make shots. You have got to make shots. And like Cloudchar, who probably won't play on Saturday, he went 3 for 3 from beyond the arc. I don't see that happening again. I don't see Denver Jones and Chad Baker-Mazara combining for a total of 8 points in that game. So as we've talked about so often, the regular season is one kind of thing and the postseason is another. I think both teams will use it to their advantage mentally. I think Auburn and Bruce Pearl will be talking about we cannot allow Florida to get that many three-point looks. And Florida will be talking about, hey, we've done it there on the road, so now it's going to be on a neutral site. So I think both coaches will use it to their advantage.
When you have a situation like Todd Golden, who worked for Bruce Pearl first year at Auburn, knows him very well. They've been on international teams in Israel together. They're real good friends. Through the years, that mentor and mentee, which one do you think knows the other one better?
Well, you would like to think that Todd Golden knows the inside and outs of how Bruce Pearl runs his program. And I'm talking about from a schematic standpoint now. I'm talking about X's and O's. And maybe that's a slight advantage for Todd Golden in that sense. I do think, I thought Texas Tech did something to Florida that very few teams have done this year. And that's they own the middle of the court with their offensive action, whether you're talking about the pick and roll, the pick and the short roll to Williams and Toppin, the pick and pop that they were successful. Both those guys made threes in the game. Florida really, in my opinion, got no handle on Texas Tech the entire game defensively. Caught a couple of breaks, as I'm sure you've talked about with the missed free throws, took advantage of that. And I get the Walter Clayton clutch gene, man. He deserves all the accolades. But if Thomas Houck hadn't creaked that door open a little bit, there would have been no door for Walter Clayton to smash down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're absolutely right. That other matchup, Duke and Houston, honestly, if I had to rank the games, this is the one I'm the most excited about in the Final Four, the way that Duke has played throughout the NCAA tournament. And on the other side, Houston, just defensively, how they get after teams. Kelvin Sampson, after seeing him go against Memphis for so many years, would love to see him get a national championship. How do you think this game plays out?
Well, there's a couple of thoughts. One is, if you're going to beat Duke, in my opinion, you must have a three-point presence. Why do I say that? Because Duke does not allow many second chance points. You're not going to score in the paint, block the block very often. We always like to talk about, and rightfully so, we talk about Flag, Knipple, the fact that Proctor and that team can make threes from anywhere. They make 10 a game, by the way. But, man, Malawatch is a problem for opposing coaches. And I'm talking about on both ends of the floor, whether you're talking about a guy that plays at the rim on offense or protects the rim on defense. He is a big-time problem. So I don't see Houston getting many they're not going to win points in the paint. They're not going to win second-chance opportunities. Those are areas that they usually are really good in and rely on. Now, the good news for Houston fans, this is Kelvin Sampson's best three-point shooting team, top 5 in the country in terms of percentage on the NCAA stat board. They just don't shoot as many as other teams because they tend to play at a slower pace. They only shoot a little over 23s a game, but they're making 8. So the path for me to beating Duke, and I think Duke is reminding me of UConn last year, the Villanova second run to the title with Brunson and DiVincenzo and that group where everybody wants to talk about Duke hasn't been pushed in a tight game. Well, there's a reason for that. That's because they're kicking everybody's tail. And you don't need to play in a close game if you're manhandling everybody. So here's what I think for Houston. If they make 8 threes a game, it's got to be double figures. The only team in the tournament that's made double-figure threes against Duke has been Arizona, and they pushed the Blue Devils in that game. So for Houston, I'm saying 10 or more. They have got to make 10 or more. Now, looking toward Monday, if Duke were to beat Houston, I think Florida and Auburn, with the number of threes that they shoot, with the three-point shooters that they have, are both built to beat Duke more so than Houston is.
What was the more insignificant win? Duke over Auburn at Cameron, or the aforementioned Florida the night before the Super Bowl on the Plains at Auburn?
You would have to say that the Duke win at home, because they were at home, was a little bit less significant. But there's familiarity there as well that they'll both draw on if they play on Monday night. The Florida win at Auburn wasn't that, I mean, until that game happened, everybody thought Florida was a really good team, maybe Final Four worthy, but was anybody picking Florida to win the NCAA tournament before that game happened?
Nope.
No, so that was kind of their coming out, if you will, from a national perspective and getting everybody's attention. Well, guess what Bruce Pearl's talking about this week? So I'm sure he's going to remind them of how that game played out. The Janai Broome situation is the big caveat in this game. I've said this all along. If you want to win a title, you have to have certain ingredients. Number one is you must have NBA talent. You have to. Everybody says, well, what about Butler? Well, last time I checked, Gordon Hayward played in the league for about 80 years. So, I mean, they had NBA talent. You've got to be in Ken Palm's top 40 offensive and defensive efficiency. That's proven out over time. You've got to be healthy, and that's where the question mark with Broome comes in. And then somewhere along the way, you've got to catch a break. And maybe Florida caught their break in the Texas Tech with the 2 missed free throws.
And Auburn, they're the only team to beat Houston in regulation. Mm-hmm. Houston's 4 losses, 3 in overtime, and that regulation win was the day after the airplane fight.
And if you want to really break down the numbers, Ken Palm's last 10 NCAA champions. So think about that. They have to be top 40 offensive and defensive efficiency. Yep. But the last 10 champions have been better on offense than they were on defense. For instance, Duke right now, number 1 offensive rating, number 4 defensive rating. So your offensive rating better be better. The only one of the 4 teams in San Antonio that's built backwards is Houston. 10th offensively, 1st defensively. I'm just telling you, the numbers tell me that Houston is the least likely right now of the 4 teams to win the title.
Wow. I know it's been a couple weeks since the Tigers were knocked out, but we haven't talked to you since the Tigers made the NCAA tournament or got knocked out of the NCAA tournament. How would you describe this season for Penny Hardaway's squad? How would you grade it? What did you think of the way Memphis, they go out there, they win their conference regular season, they win the conference tournament, they get the 5 seed that I don't think a lot of people were expecting, but then first round exit against Colorado State?
Well, probably a bad draw with Nick Clifford and Colorado State, and I think that got proven out in the second round when Colorado State, without the Derek Queen buzzer beater, they would be Cinderella in the Sweet 16. Really good team, really well-coached team, as we all know. Here's what I would say to Memphis fans, and Brett's heard me say this over the years. I try to quantify what a fan base's expectations should be as it relates to the NCAA tournament. I've done this for Billy Donovan. I've done this for Mike Krzyzewski, for John Calipari. So if you go back over the course of time, so let's say the last 20 years, and the years you don't make the NCAA tournament, it's a -1. The years you make it but don't win a game, it's 0. You win one game, it's 1. If you win it all, you get 6. Mm-hmm. And then you average that out over 20 years. Do you know what Billy Donovan's average win per tournament was in his 19 years at Florida? Any guess?
2?
1.7.
Wow.
Do you know what John Calipari's was at Kentucky? 2.3. How about Mike Krzyzewski? He won it all 5 times. It was like 2.8.
Yeah.
Wow.
So if your expectation, if you're a Duke fan, and I'm talking to you, or Kentucky fan, or Memphis fan, do the math. If your expectation is Final Four, that's not realistic.
Mm-hmm.
That's just not realistic. How would you ever enjoy the ride that a team is on if the only thing that you care about is hanging a banner? Should it be a goal? Of course it should. But the expectations should be weighted a little bit on fact, and I think I've got facts on my side.
Mm-hmm. No, I think you're absolutely right. Last thing for you, Mark. Who do you got winning it all?
Well, I did. First of all, are you guys a 1 bracket guy or are you a 19 bracket guy?
Yeah, I'm a 1, maybe 2 sometimes, but not much
Here
more
we go.
than that.
Maybe 2 means 3 to me.
Yeah.
So I know how this works, okay? I'm a 1 bracket guy. I'll be glad to show it to you. Before the tournament started, I had Florida and Duke in the championship game with Duke winning. That's how good I think Duke is. That's how good I think the combination of Flag and the other freshmen, combined with their other talent that's going around. I'm not going to get off that now. So right now, I think Florida will beat Auburn, Duke will beat Houston. And then, you line up on Monday, and if Florida makes 12, 13 threes, they'll be right there at the end.
Oh, it's going to be good stuff. That's my final. That was my bracket final. I had Duke over Florida in the finals, and I'm sticking with it. But I'll take it any way it shakes out. And if Kelvin Sampson wins it, I swear I'll be happy as heck for him.
Oh, yeah.
Speaking of that, I did want to bring this up, too. In my lifetime, and see if you guys agree, in my lifetime, the best resurrection job that I have ever seen in my lifetime, one is Scott Drew at Baylor. I don't think there's any question about that.
Had a player death involved,
Yeah, I mean, just stupid. The second one is Kelvin Sampson at Houston. I did games in the Hofheinz Pavilion when they opened, not opened, but when he went to Houston.
Very dimly
lit.
Just
you can't imagine how bad that program, the shape was. The third one is Bruce Pearl at Auburn.
No doubt.
And so 2 of the 3 of what I'm calling are the best resurrection jobs in my lifetime are going to be in San Antonio.
I like all these coaches because they're all foxhole guys. I'd want them with me. And I'd hate to be going against them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no question about it. I love the fact that we have 2 older coaches, 2 younger coaches who are carving their own way. Have you heard any chatter, or I should say, have you heard a lot of chatter this week about John Shire in the footsteps or in the shadow of Mike Krzyzewski? I think everybody knows he's carved his own path.
Sure has.
Now, I do think that will be a drinking game Saturday of the crowd shots of Mike and Mickey Krzyzewski.
Yeah. Probably.
That's great. Yeah.
But it's going to be fun to watch and see who ultimately cuts the nets down. Mark, as always, thanks so much for joining us. Let's do it again soon.
Great. Enjoy the games, guys.
Thanks, Mark.
You as well. Thank you, Mark.
Mark Wise joining us. Talk college basketball. You can catch him on ESPN. Always fun getting his insight, especially as we're down to the Final Four. Let's go ahead and get to another break. And when we return, it'll be time for Big Number of the Day.
We are real sports talk. Sports 56 WHBQ. Available on your radio dial at 560 AM and 98.5 FM, as well as around the world online at sports56whbq.com. Take us with you everywhere by downloading the Sports 56 app. And at home, just say, Alexa, play Sports 56. Sports 56 and 95 FM. The first ever preseason pool spa and patio event is going on now at Family Leisure. First time ever. Unbelievable savings. You want a pool? They're starting at just $19.99. How about a spa? They're starting at just $29.99. Patio furniture sets are starting at $7.99. Cold plunges and swim spas are just, well, I can't even say those prices. But I will say they're priced to move. There are so many deals going on right now during the first ever preseason pool spa and patio event. You've got to come in and see the savings for yourself. But wait, there's more. You can register to win either a free pool, a spa, or a patio set. Yes, a free pool, spa, or patio set. Just stop by Family Leisure to sign up. This is a first time ever preseason pool, spa, patio event. It's going on right now at Family Leisure. Family Leisure. When you're under I-40, family and fun come together.
Must qualify for enrollment. Results may vary.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. Call now. 800-575-8924. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS. Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start. Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems. We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com or call 800-575-8924. That's 800-575-8924. Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
Welcome to Triumph Auto Sales, where you'll have a great car buying experience. Triumph Auto Sales is your #1 source of quality pre-owned vehicles ranging from lease returns to new car trades, all at huge savings. Plus, Triumph has a full array of financing options to meet your needs. Find your next car online at TriumphAutoSales.com or stop in today at 4875 Elmore Road. Triumph Auto Sales will help you get the vehicle you want at the price you need and the service you deserve. For a great car and a great experience from a local and family-owned business, visit Triumph Auto Sales. Sportstime on Sports 56 and 95 FM. Once again, our records are made in Ryan Davis.
Big Daddy.
Hello, Big Brand. It's a guy, he wants to be big, then he gets big, he doesn't want to be big anymore, then he gets small, but the suit's too big.
Big Daddy.
The big boy.
You're a big guy. I think she's trying to pull a fast one on Big Daddy.
The big number of the day.
All right, Brett, let's switch it up, and how about you go first?
You got it. 135 is my big number. That's the combined win total for these Final Four teams. 35 for Duke, 34 for Florida and Houston, 32 for Auburn. I'm pretty sure that equals 135. I know it does. That's a lot of winning.
That is
to have to be
lot of winning.
At minimum a 32-win team to make it to college basketball's promised land.
It is. It's wild. It really
wasn't
is.
any squeaking in at 24-10 this year, was it?
No, it was flat out domination.
I like this.
Yeah.
Again, 2 years ago, I'll take it however it falls.
For sure.
But I do prefer chalkier. I prefer the power teams. I'm not trying to be a snoot. I don't think I'm better than anybody.
No.
I just want to see the best. And I also know when St. Benedictine Tech wins, it just makes it easier for that power team down bracket.
Yeah, I mean, and I think what you said is spot on. I don't have a preference one way or the other. I'll just take it however you give it to me. If the games are fun, if there's storylines there, if it's compelling, then I'm all for it. And so I just think
I've watched every play of the Final Four since 1973.
Yeah.
I'm going to watch it regardless. But I prefer to see better teams.
Yeah, I just think the narrative out there about there's no Cinderellas, that's not as good. I think it's just way too overblown, and
I bet you that catches somebody next year.
Oh, yeah.
Thinking the Cinderellas are over, and they look up and they're in a 2-point game with 19 seconds to play.
Oh, I'm sure we'll get that next year. But no, these and that number, it's come up. I mean, that's Mark Wise brought it up. That's today's Tuesday. I think we've had at least 3 guests bring it up. The fact that the Kim Pom top 10 efficiencies.
Well, it's the holy grail, isn't it?
Of all time, all 4 teams are in that top 10 since Kim Pom started, which was in the late 90s. So
yeah, he started 96, 97. Arizona won at spring of 97.
Yeah, so I mean, it's dominant. This
96
year.
was Kentucky winning it, and over Syracuse with UMass and Mississippi State.
Yeah. So I mean,
in that Final Four,
we're seeing some really good teams this year, and it's going to be a lot of fun. My big number today is the number 12, also the number 5. So this actually happened over the weekend. There were 12 technical fouls handed out 2 nights ago in the Timberwolves-Pistons game. That is the most combined technical fouls in an NBA game since the Mavericks and Warriors also combined for 12 on March 23rd, 2005. Now, today, an updated big number, 5. We have 5 suspensions given out by the NBA. Pistons big man Isaiah Stewart will be suspended for 2 games. Ron Holland and Marcus Sasser each suspended for 1 game. And then over on Minnesota side, Naz Reid and Dante DiVincenzo, they were also suspended 1 game each. So Isaiah Stewart, who has been known to get the technicals and some suspensions, he gets the most of it, a 2-game suspension.
And now it was not close to malice at the palace. It was not close. I don't think a real punch got thrown. It was a lot of jawing, and you could go on Twitter and find people sitting right behind that. Yeah. Their videos of it. Language got a little salty.
Of course.
But the only people close to being disaffected by it were the people in the front row, those inline seats, those baseline seats. And it highlights just how big they are seeing civilians.
Yeah, normal people.
By those gigantic, great athletes.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, it really is.
And when they just even start jawing and pushing a little, that push can go a long way.
Yeah, you get a little too close.
And that's what Adam Silver cannot have is, somebody, catch an errant elbow that's sitting in those seats.
No, you can't have that. And so, no, we weren't close to mouth in the palace.
Not close.
But it got close to some of the fans in that front row. Certainly something different there late in that game between the Pistons and the Timberwolves. So let's go ahead and wrap up this second hour. And when we return, we're switching gears. We got to talk NFL. Bo Marchant, he joins us every week to talk the NFL. And we'll talk to him next on Sports Time.
Showdown at the World Championship Hot Wing Contest and Festival, Saturday, April 26th at the Memphis River Garden Park on Riverside Drive. See over 60 teams fighting for hot wing supremacy along with live blues, soul, and rock and roll, all in support of the Ronald McDonald House. It's a sizzling day of fiery flavors, live music, music and family fun, and you're invited. Get your tickets now at worldwingfest.com. Sponsored by RS Financial Group, Bank 3, ATC Fitness, and Universal Access. This is your delicious chance to make a difference.
There's an institution in East Memphis that I love talking about. It's the Spirit Shop at 4848 Poplar Avenue, right down the street from Clark Tower, and it looks like a log cabin. It's been around Memphis since 1969 with a family-owned, friendly, knowledgeable sales staff that is just a wonderful place to go. I love going in and talking wine or bourbons, and they've got such great selection. So if you've not visited the Spirit Shop in a while, it's been remodeled. You'll love what you see when you need spirits. Tell Eddie Wollo said hello.
Join the University of Memphis Athletic Department as they host the inaugural Power of Girls in Sports Clinic, sponsored by FedEx. Held in the Lori Walton Family Basketball Center Saturday, April 12th, girls 3rd through 6th grade will join Tiger female student athletes and staff to learn life skills, build confidence, and develop a healthy lifestyle while participating in sports. Admission is free, and the deadline to sign up is Monday, April 7th. Availability limited to the first 200 girls. Sign up at gotigersgo.com/PGSC.
This traffic brought to you by Brinson Tax Service. They protect you like family.
Sports 56 traffic.
Good afternoon. It's been slow over here from an earlier wreck on 40 westbound, just past Sycamore View Road. Again, we didn't think it was going to last this long, but it's still a little bit sluggish over here traveling between Sycamore View Road going westbound on I-40 and that 240 flyover. Now it's starting to get really crowded on the eastbound side like it normally does this time of the afternoon on 40 going east from Sycamore View Road all the way out past Germantown Parkway. Hey, if your lawn needs a little bit of help this time of the year, you want to make your grass healthier and greener, call Lawn Solutions. Why? Because these guys are the best. They're professional and they're affordable. Call Lawn Solutions 867-5626. I'm Commander Chuck with your on-time traffic.
This is original sports station. We are Sports 56, WHBQ Memphis, and W253DF Memphis. Now, back to Sports Time on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM. This hour brought to you by Jack Wiley. Once again,
You say you stand by your man. Tell me something I don't understand. You said you love me, and that's a fact.
Welcome back into Sports Time. Bryant and Brett with you live and local in our Family Leisure Studios as we start our third and final hour. And joining us to talk NFL like he always does, let's go ahead and get to Bo Marchant.
National Football League talk every Tuesday with Bo Marchant, covering the NFL Draft at collegetopro.com and the NFL Draft Bible, covering the Steelers for Sports Illustrated, living and running in Eastern Ohio, and on Twitter X at Bo Marchant. Here's Bo with Bryant and Brett.
Bo Marchant joins us now to talk the NFL, and it's off-season in full force. We're getting closer to the draft, but we also had league meetings. The owners voted on various things earlier today. A couple things to get to with the owners. One of the bigger news, the vote, they tabled the vote to ban the tush push at league meetings today. Did that surprise you? Did you think that that was going to go through and we were going to have the tush push banned? Where were you on the play that the Eagles have seemed to master?
Yeah, I mean it's definitely a hot topic. It's a push button issue. I have no problem with it. They just dominate that particular play, and I think that's why it's so talked about. But at the end of the day, I didn't think it was going to be voted down, and I just think it's I read Sean McVay voice his displeasure with it and whatnot. But at the end of the day, to me, it's fair. Try to stop it.
Low man wins.
Mm-hmm. Low man wins, and they talked about when Kelsey was there, and there was a Kelsey thing with Hurts, and Kelsey retires, and they still continue success. I saw the Ravens start to pick that up, and they were using Mark Andrews, their tight end, in that particular alignment. So I mean, teams that adopted to it, and I think it's any team who's reluctant to do it may not be successful trying to do it in practice, and I think if you are able to perfect it and use it in your arsenal of offensive plays, then I think you welcome the addition, knowing that it's 3rd and short, 2nd and short, 1st and goal, 4th and 1.
that this is a play that you can put in your back pocket and have tremendous success. So, there's enough things that annoy me with the National Football League that this is one of the ones that do not. And I'm not an Eagles fan. I'm not some Philadelphia super fan. But just when I look at the game, it's just one of those things that I just don't get offended by. I don't get aggravated with.
Me either. I think it's the ultimate football. It's right there at the line of scrimmage. Buffalo's the only other team that really has that much success with it. Some others are trying, like you mentioned, Baltimore, Kansas City. They haven't. Not everybody's able to. Look, they've carved it. It's like saying if somebody, it would never work in the NFL, but if somebody in college football once upon a time, quit running the wishbone, it works too well.
That's a great point. I love it. I do. I love it. Yeah, it's the Eagles do it so well, and we've identified them as the team because they are. They're so good at doing this, and it seems like an unstoppable play. And there's times where it hasn't worked, and they haven't been able to convert whatever they're trying to do. But at the end of the day, they're successful with it. I have no problem with it. There's a lot of things I think. Advantage wise, it's an advantage. It's weird because it's a cliche thing, but we call the NFL the copycat league. And I'm just surprised more teams haven't adopted what they're doing and tried to put it in their own thing. I don't know why teams shy away from it, or I guess it'd be like an NBA team saying, "Hey, we know they created this 3-point line, but we're not going to utilize it in our offense. We're going to be stagnant and stick to our roots because we don't like it." So,
better than that, Bo. What if somebody had come along and said, "No, Kareem Skyhook's too good. We got to stop that."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
because he was the only one doing
that play. You're not allowed to throw that. You're not allowed to use that because you're 7'2", and our center's only 6'9", so you can't use that play. Yeah, competitive advantage. It's a play. It's 11 men against another 11 men. It's within the rules. They might not like the way the play is for whatever reason. They call it rugby style and whatnot. But I have no problem with it.
I don't remember the first injury from it either. Do you?
No, but when I read stuff about injuries, we all watch the game of football, and guys get hurt on every single play. It could be a kick return. It could be just a simple pass blocking play. It could be a run play to the left. It could be an RPO to the right. Guys get hurt. I know they have their studies, but I don't remember, and I'm sure somebody out there is like, well, I don't remember watching an Eagles game where the Eagles converted and, an offensive lineman was, down and out, or a defender was, in a state where, they're running the card out. I don't want anyone to get hurt, and if that was the cause, I wouldn't want that to happen. I just don't remember anything that significant.
And if I don't want anybody hurt, but if you want to have 100% nobody gets hurt, we don't have a sport, because it's going to happen with that physical nature and the size of those players. If I'm an NFL player, I would a lot rather be trying to defend against the tush push than I had being 180-pound defensive back, and I see Derrick Henry coming at me.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And even on the topic of safety, listen, the Eagles, hypothetically, maybe they run that play 4 times in an entire game. They want to add an entire week of game for every single guy in the league. So, go into week 18 and another game, and then we got to worry about the safety. Like I said, I think it's a little bit, you kind of pander those words off when they're convenient for you, but, the big scope of things. Listen, the NFL guy, they don't want these guys to get hurt. The guys themselves don't want to get hurt. But I just think that's a cheapish way when they argue for the side of safety if this play would be, neglected, taken away from the league. Listen, I'm glad it stayed, and I think it'll fade. I really do. There'll be a point where the Eagles can't do it as well as they can. Maybe Jalen Hurts isn't the guy under center, and things change, and other teams pick it up, and then they become it. Just kind of like the league, some teams, teams will figure it out, and other teams will maybe become more successful with it. They'll make the Eagles look like they never knew what they were doing, and that's probably part of the process as well. Everybody's good at different things, but it's part of the game. Again, I don't mind it. The defensive one, that was one that didn't pass. I thought I would have liked to seen that. That was where, the automatic first downs for, defensive holding and stuff.
I wanted the defense to get
that,
something.
Yeah, I think it's such a strict call, and I hate the referees being able to dictate some of the ends of these games and some of those calls, and then we could, I guess it's a Pandora's box, and then we could go with video replay. The plays that are called could be replayed, the plays that are missed cannot be replayed, and I know that's an explosive thing where it's never ending. You could go look at the tape and find something on every single play, but I wish they would have did something to just maybe limit just the automatic first down. Maybe there was a play beyond 15 yards or something where it's you kind of maybe could tell that it was going to be a big play, but nonetheless that fell. And then I think you guys, I don't know. I just think there's just a certain way the NFL wants to work. I don't think they mind the tush push, and I think they like having, particular plays like the defensive holding automatic first downs. It keeps the game in motion, and there's just I'm going to say not a lot of thinking to it, but it's just, defenders know, hey, don't foul in this particular play because it could lead to a critical first down for the offense. So
role reversal this week. I'm going to ask the Cowboys question.
Yes.
So Jerry Jones is going to re-sign Michael Parsons. Everybody knows that. Why do we get to this point every year?
Every time.
The national media, I know he's an easy target, especially now with the lack of success now over a long stretch of time, over 30-some-odd years of the lack of Super Bowl success. He's older. He's easy to pick on. And I'm not suggesting anybody feels sorry for Jerry Jones. He pays all these guys. When I see Marcus Spears jumping up and down, you got to pay Dak. You got to pay CD. You got to pay Michael. He does every year. Why do they waste their breath on it?
Well, it's the Cowboys. I mean, anything the Cowboys do, it's going to be talked about. They're America's team. I think the only thing, if you're the Cowboys, we saw them, kind of hold off on some of the deals this past summer, and they kind of had, I think, paid a little bit more than what they would have had to if they would have got these deals done prior to. So, I don't know if there's another contract currently for another defender that would exceed the supposed $40+ million that Michael Parsons is going to receive from the Cowboys. But 52+ sacks in 4 years. You got to get the guy under contract, and I just think it just sends a good message to the team, to Parsons, just to the instead of going in through, and we're this is the off season. It's we know it's the spring, it's the rebirth for all these teams. Get the deal done, and let the talk be about different things instead of are you going to sign Dak? Are we going to get CD Lamb in-house? When's CD going to sign? Is CD coming to camp? Is Micah Parsons going to be at camp? Is he going to show up for OTAs? All those little things are distractions, and they might not be big distractions, but it's a distraction. And when you don't have the on-field success, you need all the distractions eliminated the best you can. And I think the first way to do that for the Cowboys is just get the deal done. Now, if Parsons doesn't want to sign it, that's a whole nother topic. But if these two teams and the way they say that they've kind of, the numbers are set and there's discussion and we're close, then just get it done and move on. And then focus on the draft, and then you know exactly what you need to do on draft night. Because if that's not, it could linger. Things could sour. Some things are said. We know Jerry Jones isn't shy about saying or just going off on a riff of whatever he's feeling at that moment. Maybe so. If I'm Stephen Jones, it seems like he's kind of, I think, becoming the alpha dog. Just in terms, we know Jerry's the alpha, but I think we know like it's coming where he's going to have to kind of turn over some of those major decisions. Stephen Jones, get the deal done and get the Cowboys in a set of mind where you're not worried about any off-field issues. You got your premier star, premier defender in the league signed long-term, and now you focus on the offseason to make this team better.
Well, Bo, unfortunately, as you know, distractions is the Cowboys' middle name. I mean, you never get any sort of time without distractions.
They're a little addicted to it.
They certainly are.
They really are. They are. I Jerry likes
watch.
that. He likes being in the spotlight, and we know that. It's been Jerry Jones from day one, and we also know the absence of success since their last Super Bowl and the drought of playoff wins and the drought of playoff success, and it's kind of haunted him down the stretch. And I like this team, and I don't, when you look at this NFC East, the way Washington has turned it around in one season with the quarterback, Philadelphia is the Super Bowl defending champions, and then you have Dallas sitting there. It seemed like just, even going in the last season, it was like, okay, who's going to win the division, Dallas or Philadelphia? Now it's, is Dallas going to be able to finish third in this division? So, Washington, they're going to have a harder schedule this year, so they're not going to have that patty cake schedule they did last year from having a bad record the previous year. So, maybe that changes and they settle down on that success of an NFC championship run. But nonetheless, it's a weird season for the Cowboys because they were kind of that team. I mean, 2 years ago they won the thing, one of the best records. They lose to Green Bay, and since that time, since that blowout against Green Bay at home under McCarthy, it just seems that this team has regressed and hasn't been able to kind of get back that mojo that they had where they were, a team that looked like it could beat anybody on any given day. It's just kind of that they've lost that a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I'll ask the question again, a new week, but the same question. What's going on with Aaron Rodgers?
Guys, I know the owners' meetings. I know Tomlin said they're happy with Mason Rudolph in-house. And what else are you going to say? You're going to say you feel comfortable with anybody you have in-house. You know what? I'm looking at the depth chart as I was like, always kind of look at stuff before we go on, and I want him like, who's the Vikings backup? So you got McCarthy, who's yet to take an NFL snap, and then you have Brett Ripien. So that's still a bare shelf lineup. So I know last week I said I was confident that he would be with the Steelers, and I know he spent 6 hours there, and it does seem like that's the logical destination. But when I started looking at that, I started to think to myself, if there's one individual that you wouldn't trust, or at least I wouldn't trust, or, saying, hey, Aaron, are we good? Are you going to sign with us? And I don't know. I'd be a little reluctant to think that he's going to be all in on me and not more all in on himself. So put it this way, until he's signed with the Steelers, or the Vikings make a, not significant, but, I guess it is, a significant backup role guy of McCarthy. I just think a team that finished the way they did last season and have a rookie quarterback who's never taken a snap, that's a lot on your plate when you have Super Bowl aspirations. You have a team that's really poised for success right now. They were big in free agency. They have a fantastic roster already in place. So I'm not ruling out the Vikings and Rodgers until I see it. Until he signs with the Steelers or whatever other team he may go to. Right now, I know last week I was all about the Steelers and him going there, but right now I am 50-50 down the middle that I could see him in the purple and yellow or the black and yellow.
Wow, so you think he would take a backup role with the Vikings?
I think the Vikings are saying all the right things because they have, it's kind of like Tomlin saying he feels comfortable with Mason Rudolph as quarterback. Well, listen, if they had the three of us playing quarterback, Tomlin would say I feel comfortable with Brian, Brett, and Bo under, but he's calling Omar Khan at night saying, hey, listen, this is a train wreck. We got to change something. These guys are never going to get us over the hump. So I just think anybody looking at this, it's just, you can't look at the Vikings and say this is the best possible move.
Right.
I mean, and I was kind of shocked McCarthy went as high as he did. I mean, I think he's a Jackson Dart type prospect where, he was kind of out of, and I love Dart. So, but it's just, McCarthy all draft season, he was a guy that was kind of, is he day one guy? No. Day two? Yes. And then all of a sudden, this guy just starts to skyrocket, and the Vikings fall in love with him, and they take him. So I just think there's a lot more questions than answers. And for a team in that particular moment, the way that they were, they almost had the number one seed in the NFC. They lose to the Lions. But if not, they have that number one seed with Sam Darnold. And think about it, Sam Darnold, 50-plus starts, 6 seasons in the league. So, they had something to work with. And I do love O'Connell. I think him and Wes Phillips, and I think they do have a wonderful way to get these quarterbacks to play. And we've seen it with Josh Dobbs flying in from Arizona, starting a game. They're able to really get the quarterback position nailed down. But I just think this is a big ask to think of a rookie, second-year guy, never played it down in his rookie year, to think that he could come in. And, I mean, put it this way, I mean, that will be one fantastic story for the league and for McCarthy if this comes to fruition of just tremendous success so quickly.
Yeah, it absolutely would be. Well, what do you think? Let's say he is the starting quarterback for the Vikings. They certainly have weapons around him. I think some would argue Sam Darnold benefited from the system
great quarterback
that he played
coach.
in. Yeah, it's a great quarterback coach. How do you think year one as the starter would look for J.J. McCarthy?
I picked him to win the Central last year, thinking he'd be there, or not Central, but North.
Yeah,
right. I can't say until we see a little bit of him. It's something. I think right now it's kind of he's a rookie. We know he went through the draft process last year, but he has no experience. So I think it's anyone's
guess. I saw him play
under
Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah, I mean he played. Listen, we know he won a title. We know Michigan was a team that was dominant. Again, but this is the National Football League, and what you did collegiately doesn't transfer. And this is not me knocking McCarthy. I just think that if the Vikings are sitting there and they see him, they know what he's like. They have to feel comfortable in a certain way. But I just think at the end of the day, just to even the flirt with the Aaron Rodgers idea and allow it to exist. Mm-hmm. And I know they came back and they said McCarthy's our guy, blah blah blah. But I think even to allow that to simmer on the pot a little bit, that means it was on the stove. That means you were cooking with it, but you decided to change the meal. So put it this way: what happens if OTAs start, Rodgers isn't signed, and McCarthy has a setback with the knee? Right?
Yeah.
Where's Aaron? I think that's why Aaron Rodgers is like, listen. I read it somewhere. I know when Brett Favre signed, with the Jets or whatnot, it was late, or maybe it was the Vikings. It was almost like an August signing. So it was, you're basically a couple weeks from the season kicking off, and Favre gets to camp. So if you're Rodgers, you might be thinking that. Listen, you know what? If there's a setback by McCarthy, or maybe OTAs start, and they're like, ooh, this kid, he's a little bit raw. We have big expectations of 2025. Let's bring the vet in and let him sit, a la Alex Smith and Patrick Mahomes. I mean, probably one of the best things that could ever happen to Mahomes is being under the tutelage of Smith. Now, we know Aaron Rodgers isn't exactly, Mr. Friendly and wants to welcome you in under arm, but I just think it's a growing experience to be behind him, to watch how he goes about his business. Couldn't be a deterrent for future success for McCarthy.
Here's the
now, I say that
let him wait. Bo, let him wait. And I sure don't want it to happen, but let Tua get nicked up in a preseason game, and he could be the starter for the Dolphins.
He could be. Like I said, I see a little bit of what Rodgers is thinking. Like, okay, we know the Steelers are a guarantee. If I want to go to Pittsburgh, basically it's there. If I want to take it, it's an option. But then again, like you just mentioned, the Dolphins, if Tua, any quarterback, he's a free agent. So, the money could be however they want to disperse it, how bad he thinks he might be able to get a Lombardi trophy and another Super Bowl ring. I think those are factors. And I laugh because I remember one show, Brett, we did years ago, and I think we were talking about Chip Kelly or Brian Kelly or Chip Kelly. Mm-hmm. And I think you were talking about an extension or so. You asked me something, and I remember like, I think after the show he got fired or he left. So every time I'm hesitant to speak sometimes because now I guarantee when we hang up by 6:30 Eastern time,
Adam Schefter breaking tweet.
Rodgers will sign with Steelers tomorrow. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how it goes sometimes. Bo, last thing real quick for you. We also got the news today that Christmas, it's only going to grow for the NFL. Now a triple header. But here's the thing.
Why just 3? Why not 10?
And why not have them all on streaming services? And that's what they're going to do. The first 2 games on Netflix.
Christmas
and then
on
the
a Thursday.
Game.
You knew the NFL would take over.
And then the final game on Amazon Prime. We knew it was moving in this direction, but now triple header, all on streaming. It's here for the NFL.
It is, and the NBA cringes. They're like, this was our day. But now,
it was.
Big Brother said, hey, I want the TV
Yeah, we want
now,
that too.
So you got to give it up.
Yeah.
Yep.
They should.
I wonder if they'll have games on Friday the 26th. A game.
Yeah.
The way that they've been able to manipulate, I shouldn't say manipulate, but the way that they've been able to transfer the schedule between days, especially during COVID and even last season, I don't think there's any day on the calendar that the NFL can't squeeze a game into.
They
or try.
look at everything from August 1 to February 15th as that's ours. Except for those Saturdays that by law they literally
had to make a
federal law that they can't play and interrupt college games a lot of Saturdays in September and October.
Yeah.
Right. And then the Thursday night, now it's a 3-week window where if they need to change that game. So, and I like that. If you're a fan and you're planning on traveling, it might
they
be
can do what they want, Bo.
They can do it.
Yeah, it's the Shield. But for us as the viewers, it benefits us. If you're going to the game, it might be an inconvenience if, you planned on going Sunday. Now it's a Thursday night, kickoff. But nonetheless, that's a move. It's a better product for us to watch on Thursday night if you don't have a ticket. And if you have a ticket, it might, again, be an inconvenience. But, yeah, the NFL, as you said, it's the Shield. We just watch what they do, and no matter what they do, we're going to watch anyway.
Yep.
And that's why they do what they want.
Yep, we're going to be watching no matter when they play. Bo, as always, thanks so much for joining us. We'll do it again next week.
Much love to you, gentlemen. Stay safe.
Same thing.
Thanks, Bo. Bo Marchant joining us every single week to talk the NFL. And before we get to this break, let me remind you about Jaguar Land Rover Bluff City. Jaguar Bluff City has been the premier Jaguar dealership for the greater Memphis area since 1984. And their talented team, they're ready to help you find your next perfect vehicle at unbeatable rates. Swing by Jaguar Land Rover Bluff City today and check out the new 2025 models like the 2025 Range Rover Sport, 2025 Range Rover Velar, and the 2025 Defender. Test drive the Range Rover Sport, where luxury meets performance. Perfect mix of style, performance, and versatility, with options ranging from 360 horsepower up to 635. It's also available as a plug-in hybrid electric vehicle with $7,500 federal tax credit when leased with approved credit. Take a look at the Range Rover Velar, powered by mild hybrid technology and enhanced with the latest well-being features and fully connected entertainment system. The Range Rover Velar is the ultimate luxury compact crossover. Purchase yours today and get special 4.4% for 72 months financing available with approved credit. Don't forget about the Defender. Available in multiple models to fit your needs, the Defender is built for the modern explorer, and Jaguar Bluff City is offering special interest rates for 60 and 72 months on various models. Give them a call, 877-259-6169. That's 877-259-6169. Or go online to jaguarbluffcity.com. But head out there and test drive these models. 6335 Wheel Cove, just off of Quince, for Bluff City Jaguar. Well, plenty of NFL news out there. We mentioned the NFL. They are going to have the Christmas triple header and all those games on streaming services. Netflix getting 2 of them like they had last year, and then also Amazon, who has been a massive partner streaming-wise the last couple of years with the NFL. They're also going to get a Christmas Day game to throw in there. So a triple header, they just continue to move in on the NBA, on what was, like Bo said, what was the NBA's day has now turned into the NFL's day. But a lot of news coming out of the NFL as the owners' meetings going on right now. And we'll see how this plays out as we get closer and closer to the NFL draft. Well, we need to get to another break. When we come back, we got to talk about what's trending. We'll talk more about the Grizzlies, break down more about what happened last night in that loss against the Boston Celtics. Talk a little bit more about tonight's game against the Golden State Warriors, where the Grizzlies underdogs right now at home against the Warriors. We'll do all of that next on Sports Time.
Emergencies strike at any time without warning. When they do, food disappears fast. That's why prepared Americans trust My Patriot Supply, the leader in long-term emergency food storage, to protect their families. For a limited time, order their best-selling 4-week emergency food supply and get 4 free 72-hour food kits. That's 12 extra days of food at no extra cost. That's nearly 2 weeks of extra food, free to keep your family secure. Plus, free shipping. Order by 3 p.m. for same-day shipping. All kits deliver 2,000 calories per day of easy-to-prepare meals with a shelf life up to 25 years. These kits that have been rated 4.8 out of 5 stars by tens of thousands of folks like you. When the next crisis hits, you'll be ready. Stock up now at MyPatriotSupply.com before this deal disappears. Go to MyPatriotSupply.com for your 4-week emergency food supply and 4 free extra food kits. MyPatriotSupply.com.
I don't think I'm a bad golfer. I know I'm a bad golfer. This is Sheldon Rosengarten with Mark's Pen Store Realtors. But sometimes bad is not quite the right word. Awful, that's more right. And when it comes to selling houses, that's a whole different story. Over the many years that I've been in the real estate business, I have refined and perfected my highly successful strategic marketing program. In golf, forget about my normal 5 strokes on a par 3. But remember the home I just closed in November with 2 offers at full list price. Okay, let's review. If you're thinking of selling, wouldn't you want an experienced player on your team to lead you to the closing table? Someone whose background is marketing and not merely putting a sign in the yard. And remember what people often say, that when you want the job done, call who? Sheldon. You can reach me, Sheldon Rosengarten, at MemphisRelocate.com or 483-0546. That's 483-0546 or MemphisRelocate.com. And go Tigers.
Listen each and every Sunday morning at 11 to join Ottawa Presbyterian Church for worship. Ottawa's PCUSA Church in Memphis.
The first ever preseason pool spa and patio event is going on now at Family Leisure for the first time ever. With unbelievable savings. You want a pool? They're starting at just $19.99. How about a spa? They're starting at just $29.99. Patio furniture sets are starting at $7.99. Cold plunges and swim spas are just, well, I can't even say those prices. But I will say, they're priced to move. There are so many deals going on right now during the first ever preseason pool spa and patio event. You've got to come in and see the savings for yourself. But wait, there's more. You can register to win either a free pool, a spa, or a patio set. Yes, a free pool, spa, or patio set. Just stop by Family Leisure to sign up. This is a first time ever pre-season pool, spa, patio event. It's going on right now at Family Leisure. Family Leisure, Route Road at I-40. Family and fun come together.
Sports 56 traffic.
It's been a mess over here for a couple of hours now as they clean up this wreck. We actually thought it'd be out of here by now on 40 westbound on that 240 flyover. That's why it's just been really slow between Whitten Road, Abilene, there at Sycamore View Road, all the way down to the 240 flyover going westbound on I-40 again. They're trying to wrap this up, but it seems like it's taking forever. It's gotten heavier out of the Midtown area on I-40, especially over here around Chelsea. It looked like it was a little bit slow, 40 east, approaching Hollywood and Warford. Everybody was staring at this car that was over to the side. Hey, Weimer's Jewelry is your diamond engagement ring headquarters. Go by and see them this week at Weimer's Jewelry on Highway 64. I'm Commander Chuck with your on-time traffic.
Back into Sports Time. Bryant and Brett with you live and local inside our Family Leisure studios. And we got to talk Grizzlies. They were in action last night, back in action tonight. We talked a lot about it, Brett, this 3-game home stand where it's, tough games. Home against the Lakers, home against the Celtics, then tonight home against the Golden State Warriors. And now we've seen 0-2 in those first 2 games following last night's loss on TNT. Tonight, it is the Golden State Warriors who are, right behind you in the standings, a game that you would love to win if you're the Grizzlies, but everything we've seen over these last couple of weeks, the way the team's playing, the firing of the head coach, nothing points to optimism right now for the Grizzlies.
It doesn't. I said it earlier, and I'm sad to say it. I can't believe we're at this point on April 1st. No fooling. The Grizzlies are in full free fall. And these three teams, Lakers, Celtics, Golden State, that we wrap up tonight coming through, it represents, I think, the three most historic teams. You could throw San Antonio in there for sure, and maybe some others. The Knicks fans would sure like to say, hey, what about us? And what about you? But I didn't know these games so far, after two of them, were going to turn into homecoming for all their fans in this area. Saturday night with the Lakers. Last night, as soon as I walked into the building, I thought Keith Smith was there with a 33 Larry Bird jersey on. A ton of the current players, a lot of Tatum, a lot of Brown, a lot of the world champ team and brand that they are. Only time through all year for the Celtics, so their fans have been waiting a long time, and there are a lot in this area. It goes way back, and I thought we were getting past that.
Yeah, we talked about that a lot, and you kind of felt it. But watching it on, I wasn't there. I was watching it on TNT. It's kind of weird to hear Pete on the TNT broadcast last night. You kind of a couple times went, wait a minute, what are you doing here? But he did a great job. But you could kind of see a little bit of green in the crowd, but obviously not a ton of wide shots. But then at the end of the game, when the seconds were ticking down, and you hear that Celtics chants going on in FedEx Forum. You see Mazzulla and Tatum kind of amping everybody up, and it was just it was a weird scene to watch play out.
It was. A lot of Grizzlies fans, I can't blame them, left when the margin had absolutely become clear that it was too big to overcome and the Grizzlies weren't able to win. But Saturday with LeBron and the Laker history, tonight with Golden State, and most of it is of the Steve Curry years. I wouldn't doubt there's any way back to Rick Barry Golden State fans represented there tonight. It's mostly of the recent vintage, but a lot of them, they will be there. And the Grizzlies are just in a really, really bad way for the interim coach. Last night was just an awful start.
Yeah, I mean, it was, it's a lot of the same things that we've been talking about, and it kind of goes back to the same thing we saw against the Lakers where, both nights, Grizzlies have done a nice job shooting the ball. Last night, finished 44% from the field. At halftime, we're shooting about 50% from the field, but it was the three-point shooting. The Grizzlies, 25% from three on the other side. Boston knocks down 21 threes. They attempted 62 of them, so only shot 33%, but still making 21 of them, that gave them that edge and, allowed them to run away with that game. It's
wide open.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's what we've been talking about all year is these wide open threes, and we talked about it yesterday, and we'll continue to talk about it. Okay, you can make the argument to me at the end of the season that Isolo is the guy for the job. He is the next coach, or you can make the argument that Taylor Jenkins needed to go. But there was nothing that was going to change schematically, stylistically, defensively in these last 9 games from what Taylor Jenkins was doing. And now it's 2 games with the interim head coach, and we're seeing the same exact things we saw under Taylor Jenkins. And so it kind of goes back to how shocking that change was by the Grizzlies. But, offensively, they have been playing okay. They have looked good at times. Certainly went on a couple runs last night against the Celtics that looked really good. But it's just defensively, this team is really struggling to come up with stops and certainly struggling to slow teams down from 3.
But second lowest offensive output of the year.
That's right.
Just scoring 103. We talked about it earlier. The big long form. Again, truly, the national story that this firing on the eve of the playoffs that it's created with all the national NBA commentariat. But, the Ramona Shelburne story that we referenced earlier, long form, a lot of stuff there. I didn't glean anything new or that revealing, that bombastic. And now, everybody weighing in on who the next coach will be. Will it be Isolo? Last night was not a good start for him. No. And if it plays out, the Grizzlies ending up in the play-in and only winning a game or two in his tenure, Well, we know that the day he was hired last year, and we suspect that he was hired to be the next coach.
Yeah, and we've talked a lot about that. But, I think, going back to that piece over on ESPN done by Ramona Shelburne, I think the biggest thing that jumps out to me, and we talked about it a lot, is the headline for that. Inside the Memphis Grizzlies' shocking fire of Taylor Jenkins. Yeah. I've heard so many people here locally talk about, well, we saw this coming. We knew he was going to get fired. It makes sense that he got fired. There's nobody outside of Memphis.
Team insiders
that shares that sentiment. Everyone outside of Memphis goes, what in the world did the Grizzlies do? This is shocking. This is absurd. This is crazy. Those are the words I've seen national NBA media members use when talking about what the Grizzlies did last Friday.
Yeah, you very well could have, like DeMarco Cole expressed to us yesterday, that everybody was on alert for at the end of the year.
Absolutely.
But not with 9 games to go.
Sure.
Nobody saw that coming. And there were a couple know-it-alls around the building last night trying to act like it was no big deal and they knew it was coming. Well, why didn't you report it then?
Yeah, how about that? Yeah, why was it a press release?
You got microphones and Twitter.
That's right. So, It is a shocking change, and now you're going to go up against the Golden State Warriors tonight, who, yes, maybe they are not as deadly of a 3-point shooting team as they were in their prime and of that run, but you look at the shot distribution, they are second in the entire league at 3-point attempts per game. The way that the Grizzlies are giving up these open looks, the amount of threes the other teams are taking on them, it is a game where Golden State is coming in and saying, yeah, we know exactly what we're going to do tonight.
Heck, the whole league is. Charlotte can't wait to play the Grizzlies.
That's right. Yes, it's any team that comes in, they're going to be looking to knock down the three ball.
We're not big on this with the NBA like we do all those college football predictions on W's and L's.
Oh, geez.
The rest of the way, starting tonight, Golden State, win or loss?
I'm going to say a L.
I am too. Thursday night in Miami.
That a loss tonight would also make them the 6th seed. So let's point that out. Now you're even closer to the play-in.
Timber, free fall.
It would absolutely be. Okay, what's the next game?
Thursday night, Miami.
I'm going to give them a win.
I am too. So we're both 1-1. Saturday night in Detroit. Detroit, basketball town.
It's a tough game, but they just had all those suspensions earlier today.
True.
We'll give them a win.
I don't.
Okay, wow.
You're 2-1, I'm 1-2. Charlotte, win for me.
Dub, yeah.
All right, so you're at 3, I'm at 2. Next Thursday night, week from Thursday, against Minnesota at home.
Loss.
Same. So I'm at 2, you're at 3. At Denver, loss.
Yeah, it's a loss.
Home against Dallas, last game of the year. Matinee, Sunday afternoon, the 13th. Master Sunday.
I'll give them a win.
I will too.
Maybe I don't know who's going to be playing in that game.
So you're 4, I'm 3. If you're right, it lands on my 48 preseason.
Wow. All right, so we still got a chance.
NBA expert.
That's right.
Brett.
We still have a chance. But I mean, where would that put them? I mean, what seed are we talking about then?
Tell me.
I think we're probably talking about a 6.
6 looks Jim Dandy.
Maybe a 7.
I sign up for 6 right now.
Which is so weird.
Shut down the year. Let everybody get good and well. Just mail it in.
So crazy.
Take the 6.
I mean, that is insane how we're talking about.
It is
how we talked about it 2 months ago, and how we're talking about it now.
Because Brian, this was again. I hate to repeat myself. I know I said it earlier, but this was the year after last year. A lot of patience. Mm-hmm. I mean. And I love how the Grizzlies recognize at those games the longtime season ticket holders. And last night introduced a nice-looking couple that said their favorite memory was closing out the Clippers in 2013.
Oh, yeah.
That's mine.
One. That's
mine.
One. Yeah.
And that was the night that Whoop That Trick was born.
That's right.
It was born that Friday night, eliminating dirty old Chris Paul and even Grant Hill with some low bridge, cheap stuff. I love how they recognize those people and honor them and appreciate them. Mm-hmm. Well, that's the people that sat very patiently last year through all that. Okay, fine. We know we got to eat it. Mm-hmm. And we talked about late January. This is a lot of year to eat. Mm-hmm. And we knew we had to.
Yep.
So we did. We waited. Get Ja back healthy. Get everybody back healthy. Ja even more clear-minded. Mm-hmm. And this was the year to make that run to – I won't say we were saying Western Conference Finals are, fire rains down, but a good run.
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
for sure, win a series.
Definitely.
And who's really thinking that now?
No, nobody. And I mean, just the thoughts of, there were a lot of days we were coming in here going, all right, second seed's right there. You got that 2 seed. Go out and do this and that, and you'll be the 2 seed. Certainly. Everybody wrote off 1. But the idea of being that 2 seed, and now, depending on what happens tonight, a real shot of being in that 6 seed, and then Minnesota, who is 7-3 in their last 10 games, they're right there behind you. They're only a game behind you right now.
Will they have suspension still lingering in a week, or will they already paid the piper?
That's a good question. They might still have them. I'm not positive.
They're a feisty bunch.
They are. So is Detroit.
They are.
They are
young and hungry.
Detroit. Yeah, they almost want to get back to
those. They kind of remind you of.
Who's that?
2022 Memphis.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, I could see that.
Remember when we were young and hungry?
That's true. It feels like a long time ago.
Not as young.
No.
And not as hungry.
A little bit of both.
And that's stunning. And we all know in the sports world, the season it barely ends till renewal notices start popping.
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely.
Around college football, that renewal notice, you about get home from the bowl trip. And it used to be in the mail, now on your email. And if you get home after a bowl win, heck yeah.
Sure.
Come on, Maud, let's sign up for next year. Not after how this is ending.
And there's going to be so many questions this offseason for the Grizzlies. Certainly, who will the next head coach be? Will it be Isolo or will it be somebody else? And I guess we will hopefully find out soon after the end of the season. But it's just so crazy how this year has changed. And hopefully you get a win tonight, but a loss tonight, and then you're really talking about. And I mentioned Minnesota, who's right now the 7, is only a game behind you right now. Clippers, they are only a game behind you. Them and Minnesota are both have the same record. So you could be. We could look up after a couple games and be sitting in the 8 instead of the 5.
Very real.
Sure, and now Dallas, kind of playing a little bit better amid all those injuries. But I think it's more Sacramento really struggling. But
vibes were different last night in the building.
Yeah, that is just so weird, and it never really. Like I said, it never really popped off to me until the end of the game when those Celtic chants started, and I said, "Oh wow, this is." We're not used to seeing that. We're not used to hearing that, especially over the last handful of years. And kind of like we had been talking about, it felt like we were getting to a point where that was going to be done. You have your stars here in Memphis. You have a team. The team has been around long enough. I talk about it all the time. People my age, all we know is Grizzly basketball being in Memphis. It wasn't something that we had to learn after the team got here.
These are the 3 big ones of
sure,
that.
Absolutely.
Lakers, Celtics,
when you're going to get those teams, these are the 3 that it's going to happen against.
Nobody's being created a Spur fan even because of Wemby.
No. But you are when you see those 3, and we talked about last week, the week before of these are the 3. You mentioned it to start the segment. These are the 3 biggest brands in the NBA, 3 of the biggest brands in all of sports.
And you had some walk-on Heat fans because of LeBron and Cleveland early in his career, and then later when he rejoined. But nobody. I'm not gonna say nobody, but very few are showing up in Cleveland gear.
No. That's just that is not happening. But
might be somebody there in a great throwback World B. Free jersey. But
love that. I would love to see a one
best
of those
World
jerseys.
B. Free story. Hank McDowell was his teammate and was going to go over to introduce himself, and he thought, I don't know if he. I better call him by his real name.
Yeah.
He goes, hey, I'm Hank McDowell. Nice to meet you, Lloyd. He goes, I'm World B.
Love that. I love that. That's a great story. Hey, if you're gonna do something like that, you got to be true to it. But tonight against the Warriors, right now, Warriors a 3.5-point favorite on the road in Memphis. So at least Vegas thinks that the Warriors are going to come in here and get a win. And this is a Grizzlies team. Really, no injuries. That status report is pretty clean for tonight's
Miracle
game.
cure for Ja, wasn't it?
That's right. Yeah, no, he is. He's been out there
gonna be nice.
and playing a lot. Yes, be nice. Keep that to yourself. John Conchar is a game time decision for tonight. But other than that, a healthy team.
Oh shucks, I brought my jersey to wear tonight for Conchar.
you got it under your shirt there. Yeah, I see it. And then on the other side, Jonathan Kuminga, a game time decision for tonight's game. So we'll see how it all plays out. But that game getting started at 7 o'clock downtown at FedEx Forum. Let's go ahead and get to our final break of the day. And when we return, wrap up today's show like we always do with Crunch Time.
Join the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshin, for Wolo and Friends. Weekday mornings from 10 to 11 here on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
Locally owned and operated for over 40 years, Automatic Gates Construction tailors custom gate solutions for all your residential, commercial, and industrial needs, including repairs, maintenance, and installation. Automatic Gates Construction specializes in designing and installing automatic gates and fencing that seamlessly blends security, functionality, and aesthetic appeal. Elevate the safety and efficiency of your property with a premium gate solution. Automatic Gates Construction at myautomaticgates.com.
Must qualify for enrollment. Results may vary.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. Call now. 800-575-8924. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS. Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start. Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems. We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com or call 800-575-8924. That's 800-575-8924. Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
This is pretty cool, and we're just getting started, so.
Spanning the globe.
Go crazy, folks! Go crazy!
This is for all the biggest crunch time.
You are looking live. In your life have you seen anything like that? Goodbye! Hello, Haskell.
It's obviously crunch time.
Hammer, nail, coffin. This baby is over.
Well, Brett, what I learned today, something we talked about earlier, Buzz Williams has a new school. He has accepted the head coaching job at Maryland just a few days after Kevin Willard finally decided that he was going to go to Villanova, after everyone knew it was going to happen before his team even got knocked out. But then he said, you know what, I don't know what I'm going to do. Took a couple days, thought about it, and then ultimately, in the middle of the night, the announcements came out that he was going to take the Villanova job. The second that happened, Buzz Williams' name became one of the biggest names for the Maryland job.
He was out of there.
He was ready.
I think he's been trying to get out for a year.
I think so.
He couldn't get in on the Kentucky job last year. He was about the only one that wasn't involved. And when Ross Bjork hired him, then Trev Alberts replaced him, and when you have a new AD that is the football guy's football guy at a football school.
Sure.
Good time to get out and restart that clock.
It definitely is. And, this is a guy that's been to the Elite Eight in his career, has been to the Sweet 16, but, it kind of goes along with what we've been talking about with Texas A&M. It's a word you hate using. It's been a disappointment really in every single sport. They have. And so, for him, back-to-back round of 32 exits for him, and it felt like he's had really good teams, but they've always been missing something. Just haven't been able to push through. Felt like it was the perfect time. Yeah, honestly. But
lose that vest.
Well, yeah, that's the question. Will he take all his vests up to Maryland? But it felt like a time for both sides to kind of restart. And now the question will be, what does Texas A&M do? You would think that with how strong the SEC is, they would want to go out and try to get a big fish in the coaching scene. And maybe Maryland, or I guess it would be Villanova, kicks off maybe that dominoes that we saw last year. Who knows?
Last year it was kicked off by
SMU. Or Rice, I guess.
And Andy Enfield.
That's right, yeah.
Really started. Yeah, sure did. What I learned today, must win tonight for Tommy Eastlow. The Grizzlies right now, ninth seed is set, and ninth seed could be where they land. We just talked about that. That's unbelievable. But not much more can be guaranteed for postseason other than they're in. It might be play-in. They're guaranteed for a postseason. At one time, winning a series seemed like a given. Now it could be a one-game postseason and done. Unimaginable a month ago, and shocking to see it come down to this with the Whiz Kids having to resort to this.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, we talked about it in the last segment, to see where they've gone from just a month ago, 2 months ago, how we were talking about this team to now where they're at, right now on April 1st. It is crazy. If you had told me 2 months ago, hey, on April 1st, you'll be talking about will this team be in the playoffs or the play-in, I'd say that's a cruel April Fool's joke.
Wexler and Kleiman, This is malpractice.
No, it absolutely is. And we'll see what they can do tonight against the Golden State Warriors. Brett, what I could have done without today, I talked about it yesterday, the crown, this tournament, it has been a complete and utter failure. And we've only played 1.5 days of the tournament. It has been an absolute mess. Nobody's watching. Brett, I didn't watch a single game yesterday of the Crown. I didn't even flip it over.
A lot of players didn't show.
Didn't see a shot. A lot of players, they're already in the portal. They didn't play. And then on the betting scene, a lot of people thought, that's what's going to save this is you've got, daytime games. People are wanting to bet. It's out in Vegas. Well, I looked all over the place yesterday. Could not find odds for the first game before it started. Finally, last night around 6 o'clock, finally found a sports book that had odds on it. But then later in the night, I'm seeing people that had bets on these games. It's coming back voided. They're not winning their bets. Some people thinking that this college basketball tournament that is in Las Vegas did not get their tournament regulated by sports books before it started, and that's why you're not able to bet on them. It's been an absolute failure. Hope we don't see a year two of the Crown.
Back to the very beginning of college basketball, it was largely created and popularized in New York City for people to bet on.
Wow, yeah, and I mean this tournament was made for it. It was perfect for gambling, and now it's been an absolute mess from the moment they yelled start. These games haven't been good. Nobody's playing in them. You can't gamble on them. It's really been a failure from this tournament.
Both of our could have done without, but they're both head splitting in their annoyance. Mine, the torpedo bat.
Oh, please.
If it's the magic bat, then everyone should be using it. The whole sport should be using it. Hitting right now it's really shocking how far ahead of the pitching that it is this early in the year, because usually it's decidedly flip-flop that pitching lights out, until about the 1st of May.
Yeah.
Today, we're just 1st of April, and it's been a hitter barrage.
Oh, yeah. Well, we talked about it earlier. I mean, some of those scores you saw last night, I mean, the Tigers putting up 6 runs in the first inning in Seattle. The White Sox putting up 9 in the first, 3 innings.
The Cubs.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, hitters are definitely ahead.
Cubs have gone a whole month without 18 before.
That is very true. But, these torpedo bats, they're weird. A couple of my buddies were texting me about them and, wanted my thoughts. And I'm like, I see both sides of it. One side, it feels like, hitting is all about timing and understanding the pitches, and it feels like you are, with these torpedo bats, you're rewarding guys that are late by kind of moving that sweet spot lower in the bat. But on the other hand, it's kind of like, well, we see where we can have this advantage. We're still making MLB regulated bats. So I see both sides of it. I think the worst part of it is that it's the Yankees that it became popularized with this year. Of course, they get all the fun and all of all the success
the Rockies at Mile High.
Oh man, yeah, the missed opportunity there from somebody in Colorado. Where are you beaming tonight?
FedEx Forum to see our good buddy, old palsy himself, Draymond Green.
Right.
What a neat guy.
Play nice, Draymond.
Always entertaining. Play real nice, and we'll be nice back. And the Ramona Shelbourne story about how close it was to him becoming a Grizzly, that would have been the one. That would have been a lot different than a couple others. Steve Adams, we didn't like it one time.
That's right. That is true.
Matt Barnes, we didn't like
That's
it
true.
one time. that would have been tough for everybody. Must win tonight for the sliding Grizzlies.
Yeah, that would have really been the ultimate test of can you really embrace anybody?
We would have.
Would have been Draymond Green. Some, I think easier than others. They might have taken you a while to get behind Draymond Green.
He'd have been good for this team.
Oh, he absolutely would have been good for this team. I'm going to be at the Grizzlies game. It's going to be a lot of fun to see the Warriors and what they bring. I know it's not necessarily the dynasty that was a couple years ago, but still, Steph Curry, Draymond Green, still really, really good. We'll see what the Grizzlies can do at home tonight against that group. But if I'm going to beam somewhere else, if I'm going to be a little different from you, how about we go to this game later tonight? Braves and Dodgers. Braves really struggling to start the season. 0-5. Really hard to believe. But Chris Sale on the bump didn't have a great first outing, but we'll see if he can do better against the Dodgers. For the Dodgers, Dustin May, who has not made a start since 2023, he goes for the undefeated Dodgers. Something's got to give.
This game used to be classic WTBS early in the year, and it was a division game.
Wow.
A National League West game.
Crazy.
Okay, so we missed bad on some things in sports.
Yeah.
The Braves being in the West and the old 3 to make 2 in the NBA, boy, that was really misguided.
Yeah, that felt like a miss there. But it's going to be a good night with the NBA.
13 baseball games, a lot of basketball tonight, 7 NBA games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's going to be a ton of fun. We've already got a couple of Major League Baseball games that have already started with some of those 5:40 starts, but definitely a good one. We'll see, like we talked about, are the bats still going to be ahead of those pitchers? We'll see. We're seeing even more players utilize the torpedo bat, so we'll see if that continues, if we see more and more players. I actually saw this, Brett, real quick before we get out of here, that on some sports books, they're telling you what players are using torpedo bats, maybe giving you a little bit of an edge because so many people are having success with it. But it's going to be fun. All the baseball, the NBA. I guess if you're going to watch The Crown, we do have NIT tonight, so that will be fun to keep an eye on, NIT semifinals. But that's all the time we have today. Enjoy your night. We'll talk to you again tomorrow afternoon.